We are live. Let me just go live on IG. Give me 1 second. Come on, IG. There we go. All right, what's up, everybody? All right, welcome to another session of the Masculine Mind podcast, where we focus on male masculinity, self-improvement, and purpose. Live out of San Francisco on this beautiful Thursday night. As always, appreciate you guys always tuning in. As you guys can see, we have a full panel of great fellows here tonight. We have a great topic to discuss. Is marriage worth the risk? As always, if you're tuning in, the best way to support me is to smash that like and subscribe button real quick, so that way you get notifications and when we do go live every single Thursday night. Don't forget, this is a public stream, so if you do want to jump on, I know a lot of you guys always ask me, how do I jump on the pod? The link is in the description below. Click on that link and you'll be able to jump on. And I definitely want to extend an invitation to the ladies. I know a lot of you guys always respond to my stories, asking me questions about the masculine perspective and how to attract masculine men. This is the perfect opportunity for you guys to join and ask us directly. So I highly encourage you guys, the ladies, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this from IG, I see that you guys are tuning in from IG. Definitely come over to YouTube and you'll be able to access the public link on the description, and you'll be able to join the panel and ask us your questions. All right. But don't forget, if you want to share your voice and opinions, the best way to do it, drop it through a super chat. I'll be able to put it on screen, read it out for you guys, and we'll definitely be able to respond as a panel to any direct questions that you guys want to ask that's related to tonight's topic. All right. But besides that, that's pretty much all my YouTube stuff. If you're watching, tuning in, let's get the live chat popping. Don't be a ninja watcher. Don't be a creep. Participate, have some fun, and I definitely would love your feedback. I always like to hear your thoughts and your perspectives on the topic that we discuss. Definitely share that on the live chat. And I just want to give a shout out to my sponsor, my newest sponsor. Shout out to Savannah from Global Financial Impact. She has financial services for everybody out there that definitely needs help. She also is a Pacific Islander business. So if you're a Pacific Islander watching this right now, definitely want to help out and support the community. But she is Polynesian. But her and her team, she can definitely help. She has many services that she can provide for you guys. And I just list the 7 things that she can do for you. So if you're looking for tax advantages, wealth strategies, protection on your money so you don't lose in the market. Number 2, college funds for kids. If you need help to set up a fund for when they graduate or have a fund for their plans after graduation. Debt management. We all struggle with debt, and sometimes it seems like we can't get out of it. We help structure plans to help you towards being debt-free. Family bank, they can teach you. She can teach you how to be your own bank. And number 5, life insurance and living benefits. Ever hear of Lavis? Ever hear of GoFundMe accounts? As of June 2023, there are over 125,000 GoFundMe campaigns to raise funds for memorials, funerals, burial expenses. How about people who have unexpected things happen to them when they can't work? We have something called living benefits. 6, legacy planning, especially in the culture we're always talking about legacy within our name. Why can't we add financial independence to our name as well? And number 7, business ownership programs. Ever thought about being an entrepreneur and getting a side hustle and making additional income? All right, so definitely reach out to her for a complimentary consultation. All the information for her business, Global Impact Financials, is in the description below. Definitely reach out to her, and she can help you guys with all those services listed, and she can take care of you. All right, and I see Dematic Genius already. Shout out to you, man. Thank you, Manic. 99 Super Chat, appreciate you. Thank you so much. What's up, fellas? Hey, good to see you, Manic. Good to see you in the live chat. But nevertheless, that's pretty much all my YouTube stuff. Thank you so much, everybody watching this right now. But I'll pass it to the fellas. Fellas, thank you so much for making the time. Always good to surround myself with guys that are aligned with the same goals, visions, and the things that we talk about and discuss on this panel. I appreciate you guys for making the time. But we can do some quick intros for everybody watching this for the first time, and then we'll go right into the topic. All right, I'll start with you. Jerk, you want to go ahead and give yourself a quick intro for everybody out there?
Hey, thanks for having me here, Will. I'm the Sophisticated Jerk. Love tuning in with you guys on Thursdays. bunch of men that don't complain and whine. That's masculine. So I look forward to these days. It's a breath of fresh air. But thanks for having me again, Will.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Me too, man. I always look forward for Thursday nights. Pass it to you, Damon. As always, thank you for jumping on. Quick intro for everybody out there.
Hey, what's up? It's your boy Damien again. I'm the resident old head, since I'm probably the oldest one on the podcast. So love tapping in with you guys. It's always a good time. We always get some positive feedback because we put out positivity in the words and what we put out to the world. So yeah, it's always a pleasure being here and just looking forward to rocking with y'all.
All right. Always good to have you, Dame. And pass it to you, Prime. Prime, go ahead. Quick intro for everybody out there.
How's it going? Thanks again, Will, for having me on the panel tonight. As all know, I go by Joe and also Primate. And so always love being here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Prime. And last but not least, Paulo, always good to have you tuning in all the way from New Zealand. Go ahead and give you a quick intro for everybody out there.
Yeah, look, if you're new here, I'm Paulo. Look, I come from an old adage of men. I was raised by a man who believed in certain things, and I guess this YouTube sort of conversation has made me interested and intrigued in the ways that we process a lot of things, especially when it comes to traditional ideas around relationship and how a man should be. So I'm always excited to be on this podcast specifically because I think the masculine mind brings together men who look at life in a way of being solution orientated. And not only that, having the goal or the guts to say what's wrong with today's sort of ideals. So, well, I'm not going to take up too much of your time. So I'll leave it at that and we'll get into this conversation. And I'm looking forward to it.
All right. No worries. Thank you so much, Balo. Fellas, always appreciate you guys. Always a pleasure to be surrounded a great group of gentlemen. And I see you, Beans. Beans, hey, long time no see. Beans, I see you on the live chat. I see you already disagreeing. Yeah, we definitely jump on if you want to be part of the conversation because I see you have a different point of view. And as always, to all the fellas watching this right now, if you have a different point of view and you want to share your perspective, you join us in the conversation. The link is in the description below. All right. But we'll go right into it, fellas. And the question tonight we're going to have, the topic that we're going to discuss tonight is marriage worth the risk. And I think all of us all on here on our own social media, and we see most of the content that we see on social media, especially within the red pill, within the manosphere, most of the content is encouraging men not to get married or pursue committed long-term relationships. So that's the world we're living in today. You know, there is a breakdown of families. There is a breakdown of strong two-parent households, especially in Western society, whether it's here in America or other different Western societies in other countries. But there is also decline from both men and women. So I'm interested to have the conversation with you guys. We got some fellas on here who are married. So I'm very excited to hear the perspective from a lot of these the married men in here, because a lot of the times when I look at the content of social media, especially the creators who talk about to go against marriage, I usually guys who are divorced. I rarely see anybody making content that we have the example or see the results of a strong, long-term, healthy marriage. So I think it's good to hear the perspectives of both. So that way it's not only one-sided. Sometimes when I do see online, but I'll pass it to you guys so we can have the conversation. Is marriage worth the risk? And I just want to add on my perspective real quick to everybody that's watching. Anything we're going to do in life, there's always a risk. I think it can be anything, whether it's marriage, whether it's business, whether it's anything you're going to do in life, whether it's just getting healthy, lifting weights, there's always a risk to everything. And I think, and me, Balafessa, I think Dame and Dirk and Prime, we've discussed this. I think a lot of because of the influence of how and the type of content a lot of people consume, especially when it comes specifically for marriage, I think it's creating people to be fear-based, like Damon, you've always said on this podcast, to be fear-based, to be risk-averse. And the thing for me is there's always a risk to anything, right? But there's always a reward, but there's always a process. There's always a blueprint to everything in life if you want to achieve it. And I think that's what's missing for a lot of people. And I think a lot of people are living online and they're just living, they're not actually going out there to actually find the information and find the blueprint and actually putting in the work to do the things necessary to achieve the results that you want to achieve. Because there are people out there who took the risk and had successful marriages. And that's a fact. So not everybody's failing when it comes to marriage. So whether it's business, whether it's health, there's always a risk to anything. And if you want to achieve something, go find people who have the results you have, figure out the blueprint and go do it. That's everything in life, whether it's marriage, success, business, whatever. And then I just don't understand when people complain about risk when life is a risk. And I think one of the quotes I always think about all the time is the biggest risk in life is not taking any risk at all. That's the biggest risk, because that's a different reality. If you don't do anything to change your life, then the outcome is you're gonna live the same life you're living today or situation for the entirety of your life, and that's the biggest risk by not taking any risk. So that's just something I just wanted to add. I think especially when it comes to marriages and dating and relationships and men pursuing women, it's come to the point where it's very fear based and people are becoming risk averse. And when men, I guess the mentality of men having courage to go out there and do hard things and challenging things, that's what men have always done throughout time. We've always gone through and did challenging things. That's in our nature. And I guess the times of what I see today for a lot of people, they're so fear-based and risk-averse that they avoid challenge, they avoid hardship, they avoid failure, which is the necessary things, I think, to build the very qualities to become a masculine man. We have to go through that process of challenge, hardship, and struggle, so we can build the toughness and the character that we have as men. So I think that's what's missing today, especially what I see online with the younger generation of men that I experience on my personal life, is a lot of people just avoiding the hard things that you need to do in life. And but yeah, I just wanted to add that real quick, but I'll pass it to you guys, fellas. I want to hear your perspectives. And let me start off with you, Damien, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
Is marriage worth the risk today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is. I think what it is people have a marriage needs a rebranding of sorts, because people have these antiquated ideas of what exactly marriage is supposed to be. They have, like I said, they have ideas, but they don't have any practical. They never seen it. They think, okay, I hear it from this people and it needs to be this, or I hear it from this person and it needs to be that, or they have the people like you were talking about, the people who were talking about just the negative aspect of it. A lot of people I respected have said, I can't believe people are still getting married. 50% of marriages fail, and there's another 20% that aren't happy. They're just kind of going through the motions. So like 70% of times marriages aren't working, or people aren't happy in marriage. And you know what, this is going to be some egotism right here, but I feel like the ones that really stick it out and make it work, we are like the Green Berets of relationships. You know how the Green Berets, only 25% of people can make it to get that Green Beret, can make it. They put in the work. They do what's necessary to accomplish something, they overcome challenges. They work as a team to get things done. We are like the people who have put in the work, who are really trying to we overcome challenges, who are really trying to build something significant and be a part of something bigger than ourselves. So I feel like, yeah, it's definitely worth it. The satisfaction I get from marriage is better than anything I've felt in the past, from satisfaction of hanging out with women, partying, drinking, whatever. It's so much more to me than any of that stuff.
Damien, I like that, Damien, the Green Berets of
relationships.
Relationships. I like that. We gotta make a special badge for people who make it like 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Show your what's their in the military? Is that your sign?
Yeah, it calls on like seriously. Show your patch.
Yeah, your patch. Yeah, show your patches.
Yeah,
that's pretty dope. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Damien. I'll pass it to you, Jerk. Jerk, what do you think? Is marriage worth the risk?
I think if you select I'll say the right woman, then it's worth the risk. But I mean, a lot of people, I think they end up selecting bad. You know, they don't go for characteristics and stuff. So that's where it probably doesn't. It's not worth the risk if you're not looking for the right characteristics. I like what Dame was saying, because I think it does boil down to certain types of people. Like, if you approach it from the position of like, I understand the responsibility, the duty that comes along with it, you know, my legacy is more important than anything, and both of the people approach it, typically that's when it lasts, when you're stepping into that realm as a selfless type person, versus a lot of times I think people are trying to come in there and take advantage of somebody, and it's on both sides, and I think that's what's throwing it out of whack. So yeah, I like definitely what Dame was saying, and it's risky on that side if you're selected for the wrong reasons. But nah, I think it's you find the right person, you know, because at the end of the day, we all want to be in relationships, in some form or capacity, and most people want to have kids. So it's just like, a lot of people, they're so focused on the risk element that they're just like, the fear got them like stuck in a standstill. So it's like, the longer you wait, pretty much the worst deal you're going to kind of end up getting. So it's almost like they trapped themselves in like purgatory to a certain degree, you know, just like focus on the risk too much, where it's just like, hey, like, learn how to vet, like you were saying, Will, like, get around people that have the right characteristics where you could pull from multiple people, you know, and see how they did it, how they were successful, versus like, because I see a lot of time on the panels and stuff, people come to there just almost to pick apart people's relationships, versus to ask the questions like, hey, how did you get that? Why did you do it that way? It's almost like, I got to tear you down type of thing. So it's almost like they want to be resting in that negativity.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, but I think it's worth the risk if you select the right person.
Can I give a quick shout out to not only Terrence, TJ, but I got to give a shout out to Hennessy Rose, my girl China. It's just the first time she was in the chat. This is a solid good woman, and she's just a dope person. So shout out to you, China.
Yeah, shout out to you, Hennessy Rose. Good to see you on the chat. Hey, good to see you, Terrence. Dame, the SEAL Team 6 of marriage.
Dame, I remember TJ from your panel. He was hilarious, man.
That's
good
my cousin. That's
a good. Okay.
Yeah,
that's my blood cousin.
Probably show TJ. Pull up.
Pull
up. But shout out to you, Terrence. I do want to add on to what Sophisticated Jerk said. I think that's really, really important with the selecting the right woman. There's this popular dating. There's this guy that interviews girls. I don't know if you guys heard of. It's called the Undesirable Truth.
Oh yeah,
it's on IG. I don't know if you see it on IG. It's popular. It's been blowing up lately. And this guy, he interviews these girls that comes out the club, you know, dating and marriage questions. And what I see in the comments, a lot of the guys in the comments will complain. That's why we don't want to get married. But to Sophisticated Jerk's point, those are the girls you don't want to get married to. Why are you complaining? I just don't understand why these guys complaining.
Yeah.
Don't pick these women. Don't use
those are the people who go to other countries and be like, damn, what? I can't believe these people don't speak English. You know?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Right. So that's, you know, it's like I agree, 100% agree with Jerk. You know, it's worth the risk if you pick the right woman. If you choose a good woman, it's worth the risk. But a lot of times when you look at the type of girls, a lot of guys who complain about why the relationship failed or why the marriage didn't work out, you know, they'll choose girls that don't have no qualities of being a good wife and being ready for a long-term committed relationship. You know, the OnlyFans, into girls and the girls at the club. So definitely keep it moving. I see you, Lord Punisher, in the live chat, 215. Good to see you, Lord Punisher. Let's keep it active in the live chat. Definitely let me know what you guys think. But we'll keep it moving. I'll pass it to you, Prime. What are your thoughts? Is marriage worth the risk?
For those that know me personally, and for those that have been following the channel, I recently got separated and divorced from my wife. So I still think that there is a chance for marriage. I do believe Hennessy kind of took my answer from me. I think that there's, I'm in a peculiar spot where I can do a lot of risk assessment for choosing who I want to marry. And I mean, I still want to have more kids. So from my standpoint in my decisions in life, you know, if marrying her is what's going to take me to have the opportunity to have more children in life, then I believe that, yeah, you sit down, you have that adult talk, you make sure that, you know, all of your beliefs and all of your ideology aligns, and, you know, you try to figure out a way to work it out together. And I think that, yeah, ultimately marriage is worth it. I think the question is more if it's worth it, not if it's worth a risk. Because I'm not looking at it from a risk assessment standpoint. I'm looking at it from more of a standpoint of, are you going to be there at the end of the race? And so that's my ideology around it.
Okay. All right. I mean, do you have any? You don't. There's nothing in your mind when you go into a long-term relationship for you, Prime, right? No, there's no risk involved in your mind.
No, because I mean, I think I have a very peculiar position. So it's like, you know, I'm very aware that most men don't have the same positioning that I have in life.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, a lot of the nuances that most men would deal with, especially at my age, you know, before you turn 30, there's a lot of things that I already have set in place that would cause issues for a lot of people. So, you know, like I'm not worried. You know, I could marry a broke bitch if I felt like it, and it wouldn't affect me in any way, shape, or form.
Don't do it, Prime.
And so, like, it just, yeah, I think it comes down to the people. I think it really does come down to the people. If you guys are either going to build something together, like truly understand what the end of the race is going to look like for you two. You know, if you guys are, or if, you know, she's just going to be your cheerleader, so that way you can have a family. If you're willing to put forward your you know, your best foot forward, and provide a space where, you know, if you were to find a spouse and create a life where she could be a stay-at-home mom, you know, do so, and make sure you guys both understand what you guys are working for. You know, make sure you guys are both financially at the point. You know, it might not, I'm not saying make sure you guys are both financially free, because that's a very hard thing to conceptualize by any means. But it's like, you know, I'm very aware that I'm in a position that most men my age don't have. And so it's like, you know, I'm able to make that decision where I can not only look for what I need, but predominantly what I want in life. And so it's like, in my eyes, I'm looking at it from the standpoint, I do want to have more children. So I'm going to look for a woman who's going to bear more children for me. And I'm going to be able to provide a space for her to be able to either, one, live her life properly, so that way our children are set, or two, be my cheerleader, so that way all I have to do is just worry about making sure she's good, so that way the kids are good.
Yeah.
Can I piggyback off of what Prime was saying real quick?
Yep.
I like what he said, but I don't think there's an issue with analyzing risk. I don't think you should just be stuck on it, because like I know before I got married, I did look at the risk from like I'll say a standpoint of like, I saw a lot of like failed marriages, so I was like kind of assessing them, and then I was just like, okay, shit, that could happen. Let me approach this a little differently. And then one of the things I did with like my wife when I got married, I made sure that, you know, she didn't have a duress mindset, where like I made sure I built both of us up. And I think a lot of times that's where a lot of issues have, where like if somebody has that duress mindset in a marriage and stuff, you know, because the guy's not communicating, sharing the plan, the vision and stuff like that, then I think that's when people get sidetracked a lot of times. So I made sure I was like, look, we're both going to build up. If I learned something like financial wise, I was like teaching my wife that type of stuff, you know, definitely rooting her on if she was like in her career and stuff. And like I said, everything just came back to like focus on, hey, anything we do is for the household and the legacy. So we had those talks early and stuff. So that's how I was able to kind of, you know, do the risk mitigation. I'm not stumbling on the words and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely assessed it, but I didn't get like locked in it, fearful from it. Like Dane was pointing out, I think that's where people just get like fearful instead of like, you know what, let me just tweak some things, learn from this, understand why this person did it differently, and I can apply this stuff to my life and, you know, build both of us up. Yeah. So I just think people just get locked into fear versus like taking the information and changing some things in their lifestyle and with the other person.
Yeah. It's funny. Marriage is the one dynamic where you can absolve people of accountability if it ends. Like they say, the marriage failed, not the two people failed marriage. Marriage is
That's
just the commitment that you make to each other. You fail marriage. The marriage doesn't fail you. Marriage is designed for people to be together. It's the whole intention of marriage is for people to be together for the rest of their life. If the individuals in it decide that they don't want to be together, that was them. The marriage didn't fail them. And that's the one thing that I always used to have a problem with it. It was just like, even if you get a divorce, because like I said, I've had a divorce for my first marriage divorce, but it was me and her who divorced. The marriage didn't fail us, and I didn't shit on marriage after. I didn't say marriage is not for everybody. Oh, I don't believe in marriage. You're going to lose this. You're going to lose that. I recognized it was my role in it, and I wasn't true to I wasn't true to what I need to do for the marriage to be successful. And I think that comes with the accountability. It was like, I wanted to stay in the streets. I wanted to party and kick it and hang out people who just was definitely what marriage minded, So it was like, so I felt marriage didn't fail us. And I think that's the one, because like, if you have a bad kid, people don't say, oh my God, parenting sucks. It's like, you failed as a parent if you raise an asshole. So, but a bad marriage, it's like the institution of marriage is what failed. It's just that lack of accountability that makes people that perpetuates all that fear that people have about marriage.
Okay. All right. Thank you, fellas. I want to ask you guys this question. What are the biggest risks that we often see online that, especially with the men who are anti-marriage, right? There's a lot of people out there online that make content that marriage is not worth the risk, and they'll list their reasons why, right? So I just want to ask you, let's dissect all those reasons, because I do believe there's a solution to everything, and I think that's what's happening. We're just talking about the bad, but we're not talking about the people who have the results or have the healthy relationships, because they have the solutions, but they tend to only focus on the negatives. All right, so I want to ask you guys, just in your perspective, what is the biggest risk that you constantly hear online, that especially the people who are anti-marriage, they talk about, but you found out in your own personal experience, no, there's actually a solution to that, and Jerk brought up a solution in the beginning. Choose the right woman. That's all you have to do. Choose a good woman that has the qualities ready to be a wife, that has the qualities that's looking to be in a long-term committed relationship. But if you just go for the big ass titties and fat ass, then you're probably gonna fail. You're probably gonna lead yourself to failure if you're only basing your judgment based on her looks. So I just want to ask you guys. I do have some on my list, on my piece of paper here, but I want to ask you, what's the biggest thing that you see online when they talk about, oh, this is the risk, this is why you never get married, and then in your personal experience, no, I actually found that's one of the risks that I assessed from my relationship, and I found a solution to mitigate that risk, and I've been successful to this point. Let's start with you, Jerk. What's the risk that you see online that you constantly talk about, but you actually found a solution to mitigate that risk yourself in your own personal experiences, and it's not a problem to you?
Yeah, I think I'll say one of the biggest ones was that I always used to hear was, she's gonna take half my shit, pretty much. And one of the ways I just mitigated that risk, I just learned early was, first of all, when you're, I made sure I had those conversations with any female. At first, I made sure that they actually liked me. They wasn't coming into the picture like, what can I gain from this? There was a genuine, I'll say, like there, and they wanted to be with you because of who you were and stuff, like the characteristics. Yeah. So that was one step. Then also, when I was having those conversations, I was just like, look, I'm real big on legacy and building out family and that type of growth. So that means, I was kind of managing those expectations up front, where I was just like, I'm not the type of dude that's spending money all the time. I pump my focus on here. I would, because at the time I was in the military when I met my wife. I was like, look, I'm going to go to college, so things going to be a little tight. I don't be out here splurging like that. So I kind of communicated, and she was like, hey, I have no problem. I think that's a good plan type of thing. And, whatever dynamic we need to do to build that legacy, like she was on board. So, I mean, that was the way I kind of mitigated that risk. I would say like just having those early conversations and understanding that regardless, whatever dynamic that we chose, she was on board for it. And she understood like, hey, I'm not going to trip out. Cause like me and my wife do the 50-50. We didn't start off like that, but she was just, hey, whatever I need to do for the household, that's whatever I'm going to kind of do for it. So that's how I kind of mitigated the risk.
Hey, Jerk, I'm going to ask you a question. On your show, is Amazing, is that your wife?
Yeah, that's my wife.
Okay, I was trying to figure. I was like, I think that's wife, but I couldn't. Y'all don't really say. I've never heard it, but y'all don't really say it. I was like, I think that's his wife from pictures because
I had to pull her in.
Okay. Yeah.
No, that's oh, go ahead. Did you want to add on?
No. I'm just agreeing with everything that Jerk was saying. I was like, it's you kind of got to have those, like you said, those conversations early on, because you got to understand some of the behaviors you might have that might contribute to the end of a relationship. So you got to think, okay, what am I doing that could facilitate the end? Am I, what are your values? What are the things that go against the values that we agreed upon will be part of our situation that can end in a relationship? So I think the first mitigation comes from just making sure that you are consistently living in those values that you guys have set for your relationship. So that can help you even like avoid getting divorced to where you have to worry about all that stuff. And if you do, you just got to make sure everything was done with respect and consideration. You have to always consider the other person's perspective and say, hey, I'm going to treat you fairly if you treat me fairly. But a lot of times there's the event that happened that facilitates the divorce, and then people's feelings get involved, and then they lose perspective, and it becomes this shit show. I'm saying if you are conscientious about what you're doing, making sure you're trying to live at those values, it'll be if it ends, it may not be because you've gone against or you've betrayed somebody. Like my cousin had in a question, do people grow apart? Yes, people can grow apart. People can absolutely grow apart. But you need to have those conversations. You need to stop, you need to have this conversation, let people know what's happening. Because a lot of people, they're surprised of it all. Because some people could be, one person could be like thinking, we sweet, we working it out. And then you show up on one day and be like, hey, I'm leaving you. And they're like, what the fuck? Yeah. That's the thing. And then that emotion get involved, and then they lose all kinds of perspective, and then it becomes a, I want to get back at you type situation.
Yeah. But let me add something real quick, Will, because I like what Dame was saying, and you got to be willing to, like I said, live in those values, like Dame was just mentioning. And when I was like, for the most part, people when they're dating, you're talking to multiple people, but it's just like you was kind of highlighting it earlier, Will, when people get infatuated, they want to kind of go with the person that probably looks the best and stuff like that versus like the characteristics. So when I was putting it out there, like I was like, look, I don't spend money like that, very tight with the money and stuff. Yeah. So I was communicating earlier, some of the people was like, I'm out of here. And I just let them walk, but like I said, my wife was the one that was like, I'm not here for that. Like, we'll go kick it, did everything low cost. Cause Dame could tell you when you're coming into the military, you airman, you ain't got it like that, So she was just cool with just hanging out. So I just already knew like she was there, for that, for actually me, and versus like, I went him for his benefits, because you got a lot of females that target military dudes like for those type of things and stuff. So yeah, you got to be willing to lose some. And I think that's an issue with a lot of guys. Like Dame was kind of mentioning, like, hey man, you got to stick to that standard, how hard it is. Like you might see that bad one like walking away, but you're like, damn, but you know what? This is for the best. So I think once guys stay into that standard, that's where you kind of start getting better results.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question, Jerk and Dame. So just listen to what you guys said, especially what you said, Jerk. So the risk that you brought up, Jerk, was a lot of guys would say, this woman's going to take half my shit. That's why marriage is not worth the risk. So, but listen to you and your solution. It's more about selecting a woman that has the same financial goals and spending habits that you do. So if you're frugal as a person, then you should, it'd be a good idea to align yourself with a woman that has the same financial, I guess, vision, goal, and the spending habits, right? So if she's very materialistic, if she's very into like buying a lot of expensive things that you can't afford as a man, then I think that's a sign that maybe that's not the best woman to go with. I think I guess the better way to say it, date women within your financial lane. Is that a better way to say it? If you see the woman that likes to live a very expensive lifestyle and you're not there yet.
The great philosopher Dame once said, "How you start the relationship is how you finish it."
Yeah.
So I like you got to manage their expectations, like you said, kind of like you. Not, I wouldn't say as much as like you got to date within your lane, but you just got to have that conversation, and
upfront,
you don't have to be like, "Hey, I'm broke," but it's just like, "Look, I'm building to something. I'm investing my money. I'm looking for retirement.
Yeah,
I don't spend money like that."
And if you say you're a guy who's well off, you've done a really good well for yourself, or you put yourself in a position to do well, and you marry somebody who's financially not as stable as you are. If you can't have those conversations saying, "I'm going to need you to sign this to protect my assets, but I'll make sure you're taken care of," you're marrying the wrong person. If you that person is short-sighted, that may be a little greedy, they may be insecure about the situation. You need to be able to have those conversations with somebody. And if somebody says, you say, "Hey, you know what? I built this company, I built this algorithm this huge company and whatever, and I'm making all this money. I'm going to make sure you're taken care of, but I need you to understand that this was hard work for me. This took a lot of my blood and tears to build what I have. So I'm going to make sure you're taken care of, but I need you to sign that so that work that I put in and what I've built is protected. I have no intention of leaving you, but things do happen. Just like my cousin said, people can grow apart, things can happen. But I think as long as I'm not going to leave you high and dry. Yeah. I think you need to be able to have those conversations, and people are scared to have those conversations, and then it just blows up in their face, and then they got to scramble to try to put something together.
And just a question from my end. So do you, Jerk? So do you think men should be upfront, especially if you like this woman and you see some potential of something long term? Do you think that you should be upfront of where you at financially? Hey, look, I'm only making this amount a year, because I know a lot of guys, because we have egos, we want to try to pretend like we got it like that. Like we got money, but I think if you find a good woman, just let them know, hey, look, this is where I'm at right now financially, and I guess just look at her reaction. If you bring up a certain number and she doesn't like the number you brought up, or she has a problem with where you at financially, is that a sign for you? Maybe that's not the woman for me. Instead of talking to a woman, hey, look, I'm making this right now. It's gonna be tough. I'm very tight on my money, but I do have a plan to get where I need to be. And if she's more receptive to that conversation, she's like, you know what, I can do that. That's fine. I can ride with that. Then maybe that's a sign for him. Okay, maybe that's more of the woman we should go to. But if you're upfront with her where you're at financially, and then you look at her face, her body language, like she just turned off by it. Maybe that's a sign. Okay, that's not a woman that's willing to ride out with you, especially if you're not there yet financially. Yes, or
yeah, I'll say like once you build up to that point, because they got to be worthy of that conversation. So I think like once they kind of see them signs where you do want to kind of move further, man, you got to put everything on the table. Like, so I think you're spot on. Like, you got to have them conversations. Like, hey, how are you with money? How do you feel about this? Like, this is how I save. This is what I do. I might be a little boring to you. You just lay it out there. You, like you said, you let them take it or keep it moving, but you let them make an accurate assessment. And like you said, you read that body language, how they react. Yeah. They're like, I don't know if you know what, that's fine. I'm not here to shame you, but I'm probably not the person for you, and you, like you said, you keep it pushing. Like,
keep it pushing. Yeah.
Yeah. And seriously, it's just like, if you could have that conversation and just phrase it like, you know what, I'm not the guy that's going to buy you the Louis bag, but I'm the guy that's going to make sure you're not a greeter at Target, at Walmart when you're 70 years old. I'm going to take care of the future and make sure I'm planning for the future. Things I do have a long-term goal, not this short-term shit. That's not how I get down. If you're not a long-term thinker or can get with a person who's a long-term thinking, it's not going to work, because I don't think short-term. I think, like I said, It's funny, and that's a true story. Like my wife actually was joking when we were younger. It's like she was like, "I'm not going to be a Walmart greeter when I'm 70 years old." I'm like, with me, you absolutely will not be a Walmart greeter when you're 70 years old. No diss to Walmart greeters. I know shit happened to people, but that's not my plan for my family.
I'm not gonna lie, that's one of the things that breaks my heart when I walk into a store and this old person greeting me. I was like, that's tough, man.
Chick-fil-A, we saw this lady cleaning up after mustard Chick-fil-A one time. I was like, damn.
I know it's tough. I mean, it's like, damn, that's tough. But I appreciate it, fellas. Let me pass it to Balo. I know I'll give you some time and then we'll come back full circle and continue on the conversation we're having. Balo, I'll pass it to you. Yeah. What's your thoughts? Is marriage worth the risk?
Depends who's defining the risk. And I think everyone sort of covered it pretty much in the sense of marriage is worth the risk in terms of the benefit alone. So when we look, there's extensive studies out now that goes to speak about health outcome, longevity outcome, financial outcome that are more catered towards people who are in long-term marriages and healthy ones, right? But for me, look, marriage will never be worth it to the man who doesn't see any value in it. And when a man doesn't see value in marriage, he no longer values himself. And we use the idea of legality to try and hide the reason why we excuse ourselves from marriages. But to be honest, what is the life of a man? To mitigate risk. And if you're looking at marriage as a ways of risk, then you have to mitigate it. And if you're telling me that there are no ways of mitigating risk when it comes to marriage, then great, I can probably concede to that notion. But when I look at it in someone who's married and someone who looks at other married men and have this sort of conversation, we do things prior to being married to ensure that we optimize for its success. Looking at women in the ways that what are their characters? Can they be a reflection of my value system? The idea of coachable. And these things are put in motion prior to us engaging in the idea of long-term commitment. But there are too many men who are being conditioned to be risk averse and are conditioned to not value their last name, to be conditioned to not value their lineage, their legacy. So it's an interesting dynamic when I hear a man who says, "Oh, I don't want to be married, but I'm open to the idea." Listen here, you punk. You either choose or you don't. Like that's I hate to say this, but that is some pussy ass shit. If you want to get married, do the things that mitigate the risk of being married. If you don't want to get married, don't talk about marriage. So, look, marriage will always be worth it for the men who want to see longevity in terms of their principles, their value system, who wants to see the next generations of men and women grow up with something that's far more important than the things that we're chasing now. And those are the values that we stand by: accountability, discipline, and resilience. I value those things, therefore I want to pass them on. And I wish that my children will pass those things on to their children. That is the epitome of my belief in those things.
Yeah. You know what Balo just said? It reminds me of that quote. Don't complain about the results of your life because of the work that you didn't do. So just choose. Choose your life. If you want to be fat and broke, be fat and broke. Choose it. If that's why you want to choose, but don't complain about the lack of finances and why you're fat. You chose that. So if you don't want to get married, then that's fine. That's your choice. That's your prerogative. Like, choose that, but then don't complain about the lack of, being with a good woman, or the lack of fulfillment of not having a good family, of a good woman in your life. And I think that's what I see. Choose something and stand by it. But it always bothers me when people choose and make a decision for their life, but then they complain about the lack of results because they refuse to do the work.
Yeah. There's that other old saying, like, I've tried absolutely nothing and I'm all out of ideas. There's a lot of guys who have that mentality. I've done nothing, and I can't think, and I have no ideas of what to do. You've tried nothing.
Yeah. Or even the guys that said, I tried everything. Okay, list them. How? Like, what did you try? Oh, I just tried that one thing over and over again. That didn't work. Oh, that's
exactly. And I'm all out of ideas.
Yeah. All right. But as always, appreciate everybody on the live chat. Thank you so much. And,
There was a question in the live chat that we were talking about. It was two people were talking about the risk of not getting sex. That's what people were saying. That's what
Yeah, that's another one. I didn't read that.
Punisher and Hennessy Rose were talking about was
the
like
risk of what? Not getting what?
lack of sex. It was like people lose that you marry somebody and all of a sudden after a couple of years your wife don't want to have sex with you anymore.
Oh, that just means you're not as hot as you thought you were.
Pretty
So
much.
let's bring that up because I think the study they always use on that one is I think 30% of marriages are sexless. I think the last time I checked, I don't know, it'd be lower or higher. So that's one of the risks they use. I mean, we can might as well, since already you guys brought it up. But what do you guys think about that? I'll pass it to you. Well, I'll pass it. Let me start with you, Prime. Prime, what do you think about that risk? A lot of guys are saying don't get married because eventually you're going to have all the obligation and responsibilities, but you're not going to get any sex from your woman.
I mean, I'll take one out of Paula Fessa's book. I think it's more along the lines of if you're willing to, tease her throughout the day. If you're keeping that fire lit the whole time, I think that's where a lot of men don't really take a lot of accountability. Is that it goes both ways. It's like, one, you do have to remember that your wife is a human being, and to that extent, you got to be willing to do the things that were, that kept that flame lit in the beginning, and continue to keep that lane. You need to be the pilot light throughout all of the times, and from my perspective, it's more along the lines of just making sure that you guys are having time to your guys' selves, not meaning like, alone time, but what I mean is like time together by yourselves. No friends, no family, no kid, making sure you guys have that time to invest in each other other than work related stuff, other than, home related stuff. That's just how I see it, is that if you can't keep that up, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I really don't know.
And even that stat. Oh, go ahead, Damon. You go, Damon.
No, it's just like it is. I feel like this: if you're not having sex as a relationship, if the man's not having sex with the wife, he's not attracted to you anymore. Not just physically. You could be nagging him, you could be yelling at, you could be demeaning him, you could be emasculating him. You're not an attractive person to him anymore. You don't make him his you don't that spike in you don't make him feel good about himself, manly or whatever. There's something about him where you've probably diminished him, and he's not attracted to that, because men like to feel like they have that's the one thing that they have, that's where they shine or whatever. They're dominant, they're masculine when they have sex. So men, he's not attracted to something about you, whether it could be that you gained a bunch of weight, but a lot of times it's not even that. It's just, I'm not attracted to the way you treat me and how you talk to me, your lack of respect, your overall demeanor has changed. Then on the other side, if your woman's not having sex with you, there's been a severing of a connection there. There's a connection that's severed that you need to figure out what you need to do to repair that connection, because women fuck the people they feel connected to in marriages. If you feel connected to them, you're gonna want to fuck your husband. What are the little things? Are you not doing the little things that make her feel valued, appreciated, heard, fully recognizing her and stuff like that? You're not listening to her. Those are the things that can happen where you sever connection, and then she's not attracted to you because the connection has been severed. There's something that you're not understanding that you need to kind of figure out in order to get her to start viewing you as attractive again. So those, in my opinion, and those are things that can be worked on in order to reestablish the sexual dynamic in a relationship. You cannot stop nagging. You can realize that you might be emasculating him. You might be making him feel a certain kind of way. You opening the idea, like you yelling at him every day, but the girl at the job is telling him how handsome he looks in his suit. You're opening up. You're doing something. You're setting yourself up. He's comparing you to that other chick. and he's wishing that you were doing what that other chick was doing. And like I said, there's a connection sever if the woman's not having sex. You got to have those conversations and really be able to look at yourself to decide, okay, what am I doing and what am I willing to do to build that connection back up?
Okay. All right. Appreciate that, Damien. Jerk, anything you want to add on to that risk? A lot of people are saying don't get married because your woman's going to end up not having sex with you and have a sexless marriage.
Yeah, that's definitely odd. But if I'm thinking about it, Dame was on it, and I think Prime has some good points. But I think it just goes back to like getting somebody that likes you. I mean, Dame had a good point where it's like when you get married, you got to keep the excitement going and stuff like that, and the connection, that's important. But I mean, we seen people that like females will break up with somebody and they still like attach that ex and stuff.
Yeah.
And they probably hate their guts, but they have that physical attraction to that person. So I think it's just important, man. You got to get somebody that likes you for who you are, because a lot of times too, if they are like withholding, it's just like they looking at you like as like it's like a chore almost, like to sleep with that person, like it's a burden or something to them. So I mean, it just shows like they don't have that attraction too in some of those cases. So I think it is definitely important, and also to have those talks up front. Like, look, that's one thing. Like, we're not going to play games with like the sex or anything. I'm never going to cheat, but if it gets to that point, I will leave. Like, man, you communicate this stuff early, man. Like, you got to manage some expectations. Like, hey, I'm not the one for that. Like, if you want to withhold, that's your right, but I will be bouncing because I'm not going to cheat on you. So I will let you know, like, I'm going to leave this situation. And I think if you have those tough talks up front, you know, it does set the stage. Like, people know, like, all right, I can't be playing no games and doing that type of stuff. So it's going to force those like conversations. Like, if somebody's mad at you, like, hey, I'm upset, let's talk about it. But yeah, we ain't gonna play games on that, because that does lead to like cheating and stuff when you start withholding certain things and stuff.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Jerk. I'll pass it to you, Paulo. Paulo, what do you think about the people against marriage? Because one of the risks involved that you're gonna go into a sexless marriage, especially when you date the modern women today.
Have we magically just lost the ability to talk to each other now? Like what Jerk and Damon is talking about. Look, these are things that needs to be discussed. Sex is important for us as men, so that needs to be discussed. Speak to your woman. Look, honey, these are things that I need in terms of who I am, right? I love you, I appreciate you, and I want to be intimate with you. And again, I think someone's already suggested, look, we have a duty of care towards each other and fulfilling each other's needs. If sex is part of your need, and typically it is for us as men, we need to communicate those things. And for the woman, she needs to communicate, okay, if you want sex, this is how it is for me. I don't just flip a switch and I get whatever it is. I get in the mood. Maybe tap my ass during the day. Give me a hug. Kiss me on my neck. These things need to be communicated by women to us as men, because oftentimes it's a switch. You just have to smell right. And it's like, damn, let's get it on. Whereas she's like, what? I just came out, from doing the washing and I smell like so bad. How can you be so attracted to me right now? So those things, look, these dynamics, and this is why I accuse a lot of people when they use the word communication, because it's a buzzword. People throw it around. This is what communication is. Talk about sex. Express to each other how sex is important and how to satisfy each other. We're grown adults. We can have these conversations now. It's not a, hey, sex, hey. Men and women were adults. We're over the stage of having to play these coy games that we do when we were dating or when we were teenagers or young adults. Speak to each other. Express your needs. And for the men, for us, this is what I mean. We keep putting a lot of these blaming game and pointing the fingers, but at the end of the day, we condition people to treat us the way that we condition them to. If you don't open your mouth and say, baby, I need sex and I want to be intimate with you, guess what? She's probably not going to give it to you. Just as much as we blame women for thinking they were mind readers, we often insinuate that they should read our mind. Just because you walk past and give her a dry hump doesn't mean that, oh, that's a signal. And again, this is where a lot of men have lacked the experience with women. Women is a slow roast. You have to start early in the morning if you want to get it at night.
Yep. Just to address Lord Punisher, to piggyback up on what Palafessa said, you need to put the word effective in front of that word communication, because you can be communication all the wrong way, sending out wrong signals and everything. So anytime anybody uses the word communication, you got to have the word effective in front of it. And the way you make sure that you're using effective communication is you consider the other person's perspective. You always keep the other person's perspective in mind. That way, it's not just about you. It shows empathy, insight, and things like that. If you can relay and convey that you understand the person's perspective. The funny thing is, I learned this in 1992. There was a movie called White Men Can't Jump. And there was a scene where Rosie Perez says to Woody Harrelson, "I'm thirsty." And he said, "All right, baby, let me go get you some water." And she said, "See, that's your problem. I need you to say, I understand dry mouthedness." You know, I want you to empathize that you get it too. And then not just trying to solve the problem. I need to, and that's one thing, and that's stuck with me. I learned it, but then I didn't realize how true it was until I got into my late 20s, where it was like, it ain't just about solving the problem and just saying, okay, it's about, you need to empathize and understand what the emotion behind what they're saying is, and recognize it. Like, and it could be as simple as, dang, you know, I know that it sucks to have a dry ass mouth. Man, I feel bad for you. Let me get up. You want me to go up and get you some water so you don't have that anymore? And that solves the problem. Just recognize the emotion that women attach to a lot of shit they say, and then you'll be all right. Don't just immediately go to the solving problem part. And that's the part, like, you got to learn it. And that's a learned skill, because, like I said, we are designed to be problem solvers, because that's how we relate to each other. And that's how we get respect from men. But women want you to always attach some type of understand and attach the emotion behind it before you solve the problem. And then I think that's the way, that shows that you understand their perspective and you're communicating effectively with them.
Okay. All right, man. Thank you for dropping that name. Jerk, Prime, anything you want to add on?
Yeah, I wanted to circle back to something like Prime has said. And, well, before I go on that, Paulo was pretty much telling you dudes, you guys got no game. I'm translating today. so shout out to Paulo. But going back to what Prime was saying, about making those dates and stuff. So me and my wife, we started going to that Orange Theory because I wanted to start doing more cardio and stuff. And, you know, we go in there, we be working out and stuff. And it was funny because, like, I was messing up on some of the form on some of them little exercises. So my wife was working out right next to me, and the instructor comes in there. I'm always like cracking jokes and stuff. So she comes over there like, "All right, your wife has good form. Watch her." She was like, "Look at her butt." So I'm sitting there, I'm just like checking it out. So they're just cracking up and stuff. But it's just like simple stuff like that, man. It's just like, you know, crack some jokes. Like Paulo said, it's like, man, it's that slow roast, you know, talk some shit, you know what I'm saying? And do that early in the morning. And, you know, she go, like, my wife, she be getting ready, going to work. I'm like, "All right, J-Lo, I see you." You know, stupid stuff. So, you know, she'd be like, "Man, you're dumb as hell." But, you know, we'll be texting and stuff, dumb stuff. So yeah, it's just like, man, talk that noise, and, you know, go out, you know, do physical activities with each other. You know, that's a build up sometimes, like Prime was saying, like, make sure you have that adult time, you know, because a lot of times you start having kids, it's just kid center, you know, and stuff like that. And you kind of lose focus of each other. So I like what he was saying.
Women,
any man who mastered the art of dirty humor would be very successful with their wife.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jake was saying.
Seriously. And women, never underestimate the significance of changing your bra in front of your husband.
Oh, no doubt.
I don't care if you done had 20 babies. Don't underestimate the power of changing that bra in front of your husband, because it's sexual without being sexual.
Facts. That's facts.
Facts. I
Again, well, again, I think this point is very lost on a lot of men and women now. Make time for each other. It has to be intentional. If you can go out every fortnight, every month, make the time for it. The dating phase is sort of a foresight into how relationships are. You don't just meet each other and go straight to it, unless that's the scene now. You meet each other, you sit down in some nice environment, usually over dinner. You crack jokes, you have conversations, and you develop from there until whatever the end goal is. It's essentially what relationships are on repeat. Get up in the morning, give her a kiss, and say, "Baby, I love you. Let me go get this bag and get this money, and I'll be back to see you." During the day, send her whatever. Like, these are things that we have to be intentional, and it's not about. I think people look at it so differently, and I guess to some point they misconstrue it. But that's your duty of care to each other. Check up on each other. Baby, how you doing? What are you making for dinner? Don't I love it when you make roast? Whatever it is that she says. Right. That's the duty of care that we as men and women have to put into each other. And for you as women, give him a big old hug when he walks through the door. Women highly underestimate the power of a hug and a kiss at the end of the day. That shit will put a battery in a man's back for almost damn near 2 months. For some men, it's years. Just that single hug 5 years ago has still carried that man till today. So, duty of care towards each other, that's what relationships are. And that's what makes relationship last long.
All right. Appreciate that, Paulo. All right. How you doing, Alexa?
Hi, I'm doing really good. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to talk to you fellas and see what comes up. Yeah.
Good to see you, Alexa. And Carmen.
See you again, Alexa.
How you doing, Carmen?
I'm well. How are you?
I am good. Thank you, ladies, for making the time and jumping on tonight with the fellas here tonight. We're talking about long-term relationships, and we're talking about marriage. Is it worth the risk? A lot of people are saying today, especially we all live here in modern society, we live here in America. There is a decline in marriages, but there's a lot of people that believe that marriage today is not worth the risk. But the fellas here tonight, we disagree. We think it is worth the risk. All right. So, but I want to pass it to you, ladies. What do you guys think about that? Because I do understand that at the end of the day, regardless of what your ideology is, but I think from a biological level, everybody seeks connection. Everybody is looking for a relationship and for a partner, and that's why for me it doesn't make sense when I hear people talk about it's not worth the risk. But I know deep down inside for everybody, we're all seeking a connection with somebody. So instead of focusing on all the negative things about marriage, and why not try to focus on all the positive things and figure out solutions and figure out things for yourself to figure out, so that way you can attract the right partner and a successful marriage. But I'm interested to hear about the last hour. I got a chance to hear from the fellas, but it'll be interesting to hear from the female perspective and mind. So let me start with you, Carmen. What do you think, Carmen? What do you think about, is marriage worth the risk, according to you today?
Definitely, yeah. It's definitely something I strive for. Not because of just for the sake of, I hear about like, oh, women care about the wedding, not so much the marriage. But I care more about the connection too, and leaving behind a legacy, making sure that like if I were to die young, that my family is taken care of through the law, so there'd be no questions as far as who gets what, when I leave my things behind. So definitely, and I would hope that my partner feels the same way. If we get married, that he is thoughtful enough to think about, me. And if we have kids, then obviously them too. So yes.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it, Carmen. Good to see you again since last Saturday. Good to see you, Carmen. I'll pass it to you, Alexa. Alexa, what do you think, Alexa? Do you think marriage is still worth the risk today?
Yeah, I definitely still think that it's worth it. I don't want to call it a risk. That just sounds kind of like caution, don't do it. But I think people should take a chance on marriage, on love, because that's what we're meant to have an experience. We're meant to be in a unity with somebody else and experience life not on your own, but have somebody witness your life and be there on your side and have your back 100% all of the time. Like we deserve to have somebody that has our backs 100%. And there's no better way to experience life than with a partner, I would say, as a lover girl myself.
Okay. Thank you, Alexa. We started this podcast with the fellas. I asked them what is the biggest risk that men often think about or analyze when they before they go into a long-term committed relationship with a woman. So, but I want to hear from the female perspective. What are the biggest risks do you guys think about when you finally meet a guy and you see potential? You know what? I can see this potentially going long term. What is the biggest risk that you guys think about as women when it comes to committing to a man long term? And if you don't mind sharing, like, what's the top risk that you think about? Okay, if I find this guy, he's committed. Okay, this is the thing I have to worry about if I'm going to take this extra step and really commit to this person long term. What's the biggest risk in your mind that comes to mind, Alexa?
Well, for me, based on my past experiences, is this gonna change? Like, is the relationship gonna flip? Like, is he gonna show sides of himself later on in the relationship that I'm not seeing now?
Yes.
Why'd you make that face, Will?
Yes, he is.
Okay, but
Sorry.
is it? I don't know. I've just been in relationships where like he started to be more controlling, and I'm just like, nah, this is not for me. Even though I went to it with an open heart and like seeing a marriage, seeing kids with this person, but then like after a year and a half, I'm like, nah, I have to get out of this. This is just not worth it anymore.
Can I ask you a question, Alexa?
Yes.
Can you define controlling? Because it's a
Yeah, I was
word
about
a
to
lot of
ask.
women would use. But
Okay.
I want to like, can you define or give an example? What in your mind, what is controlling from the man from your perspective?
Yeah, like okay. If I did my hair different for work, he'll be like, why are you changing your hair? Like, what's going on? Like, you never wear your hair like that. And it's like, okay, why are you so insecure? Like, I need you to trust that, like, we're good, you know?
Were you thinking that he's thinking that you're wearing it different for somebody at work?
Yeah. And like, just any little
Okay.
changes like that. So it made me feel like I couldn't change the way that I do my hair. I couldn't change what I'm wearing or anything like that because it'll start an argument.
Did he say that? Did he say, you know, who you looking good for? Anything, even jokingly? Did he say anything like that? Who you trying to impress
Yeah,
or
sometimes, not all the time.
okay.
Can I ask another
Curious.
question? And then maybe Dirk and Damien and Prime can respond to this. I mean, I don't have a problem with women dressing up and going to work and looking good, but do you dress better at work than you dress for him?
No.
Okay. Because I think from my conversation, a lot of guys, we do appreciate if you dress good for us. It's something that we find attractive, but sometimes, based on the things that I see for a lot of the relationships I saw that had issues, is the girl would dress better for other people more than you dress for your man.
But the thing is,
what do you want to respond to that, Damien? Can you respond? What do you want to say?
because the thing is this, it's like, but that's probably going to be true, a factual statement, because my wife, we have 3 kids. She's in sweats and comfortable clothes 80% of the time.
Yeah.
When she goes to like, she's in the mortgage industry, when she goes to like to meet other like realtors and stuff like that, she dresses up to go to handle business. So yes, there's a good chance that those people will probably see her dressed up not more often, but just for a longer duration than I will. Like I'll see her when she's leaving and I'll see her when she come home and then she gets out of all that shit, So it is, but you got to take it as like okay, if she would, it's not like she would prefer not to dress up with you, but sometimes the dynamic doesn't facilitate where she's going to be dressed up all the time for you.
Yeah.
And if a dude is wanting his wife to be, if he really really wants to consider what she does every day, she's going to be like, yeah, my wife is in sweats. When she takes my kids to school, she's in the sweats. When she comes back, she's in the sweats. So I think. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
I was talking more specifically. I understand, when you're at home in your sweats and you have kids, you have family. I'm talking more specifically if the man say he planned a date for you, right?
She just better. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You plan a date. You time to go out and plan a date, but she doesn't put the same amount of effort to dress up for you when you guys go on a date to go out more than she does for work.
Oh man, that's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying now, Will. Yeah, if y'all go to like Fogo de Chao and she's wearing a Nike jumpsuit, then yeah, there's some issues.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he sounded like I like what Dame said, because my wife, definitely goes to work, so she's gonna dress up. But when we go out, to like eat at a nice place, like she's gonna dress up also, but she's dressing up more when she goes to work, but I don't have no insecurities, and it sounds like Dame doesn't either, because at the end of the day, it's just like when the person and they're coming home and everything's for the household, it's just like you shouldn't be tripping off that. So he definitely sounded more on the insecure side.
Yeah, that makes sense that way. If he's on some who you like, because dudes will even hide insecurities with like joking, like, "Are you going to go see your little boyfriend?" That kind of shit. Yeah, and women can do the same thing. Like, "Oh, your girlfriend walking by, your little girlfriend walking by." That's they're basically trying to just indicate that they're feeling insecure about something, and it shouldn't be just brushed off. It should be addressed.
But Alexa, did you ever like talk to him about it? Like, hey, why are you tripping? Or did you guys ever have some conversations about that?
No, because in the past I just kind of swept everything under the rug and I kept like everything buried, and I knew if I spoke more, it was just going to turn into a bigger argument that it didn't need to be. But that's my own fault, because I didn't have like my voice or that backbone to like really share what I believed and stand up for myself.
They say when you sweep shit under the rug, you end up tripping over the lump at some point.
I tripped a lot.
Yeah, it just sounded to me it wasn't more of controlling. It just sounded to me it was insecure or a lack of communication from his part. If you have a problem, then address it. I think
I have something else to share. Say I visited my family and I wanted to go again the next week. He'll be like, "Why? You just saw them." So I didn't get to see my family as much as I wanted to, because he thought that I didn't need to.
Yeah.
So there's levels to it. Yeah.
Yeah, when men try to isolate you, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
They should want you to be, because it's the family dynamic that you're going to bring into your relationship with your kids. Like, I want you to be a part of happy, healthy relationships, because that's the dynamic I'm trying to foster at my house. So of course I want you to see, unless you got your family shit and it's going to be a bad situation, you come back feeling worse. But if you come back feeling good every time you go see your family, you should be like, go see your family as much as possible. Because I want you to be able to take our kids over there and they have the same enjoyment out of being with your family that you do.
All right, I'm gonna dissect this a little bit. Alexa, were you like the prettiest girl he ever dated? Would you say that if you like?
You can be honest. You don't got to humble brag. You can just be honest.
I don't know, but once upon a time, he also said, "Hey, remember, you're pretty, but you're not all that." Like, he would tell me things like that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I feel you, Carmen.
Yeah, but I allowed this to happen. I had my own.
Yeah, that should have been a sign right there.
I had my own weaknesses. It taught me a lot. I'm not the same person anymore. I wouldn't put myself in that situation ever again. I'm grateful for the experience and that I overcame it for sure.
No, because it's a lot of times like when guys like they'll, like get somebody that they kind of like pedestalize or was like way out of their league. It's like they want to cut that person off from society, damn near, so that's what it kind of sounds like. He wanted to box you in, like, because in his mind he's like, hey, she go to work and meet somebody better or something, while they be like, oh, they got their work husbands or something, so in his mind he's thinking all these like negative scenarios and shit. So definitely lack confidence.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that these men can also project what they're doing themselves, like if they had a work wife,
100%.
They had
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there was this science, this psychologist, she was saying if a guy is flirting at work, like you said, then of course they're going to think other guys are going to be flirting with their girl because they think all guys are the same. It's like, if I'm flirting, of course somebody's going to flirt with her, and I can't have that.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a good
you really
point. I
nailed
never
it
thought
right
about it
there,
like that.
Carmen. There's a lot of dudes who project a lot of shit that they're doing or they would like to be doing.
Oh, dang. Carmen coming in strong
Yeah,
tonight.
critical thinking and stuff. I
I
wasn't
got
prepared for that,
no,
Carmen.
look here, look, check this out. I got questions. I was like, I'm
Oh, yeah.
prepared
Oh, okay,
tonight.
okay.
You know, hold on.
And I-
Let me get
And I
my
want to say something.
pen.
Carmen,
Yes,
Carmen,
yes,
you know a really, really good friend of mine,
I do. Who?
Eliza
Oh, no.
Chun. That's a
Yeah,
really good friend of mine. She's a longtime friend of mine, and
I love
she's a
her.
dope person. Just if you ever
Yeah.
run to say Damien said what's up, she's just a dope person.
I just saw her this past weekend, so yeah.
Yeah.
For
That's
sure.
my girl.
Carmen,
That's my
Liza
homegirl.
told me she
see
don't
her
really
on
like
next
you.
week.
I just wanted to put that out there.
Say what?
No, I'm just
I hope
joking.
not.
I
We've
was
been
just
cool
saying,
for a
like,
long
Eliza
time.
really don't like you. She told me, but nah, I'm just playing around. I'm messing around.
Lies.
Yeah. Damn, Damon, you know everybody. And I'm just
I was in them streets when I'm from San Francisco, so I was in them streets.
Yeah. Wait, how did you make that connection, if you don't mind me asking?
Because like when a lot of times when people go on Will's channel and they have like you posted something and I clicked on it and it said also followed by Eliza Chun, and then you in
Oh.
one of your pictures you had like a dance routine and I saw her dancing in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think she posted the same one.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
look at that. The world is getting smaller.
small world, small
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
I'll pass
Yeah,
it to
it's only
you,
6 degrees.
Brian. What do you think? Anything you want to add on to what Alexa shared?
I mean, like, my personal point of view is more along the lines of, yeah, I think it is an insecurity when most men approach it that way. I mean, I'm taking it from the perspective of like the accountability, right? It's like you could change the whole entire attitude of the day by saying, damn, babe, like that's you right now. You're going out like that. Fuck yeah. Like bring that ass back home. Like I feel like that could totally change the whole entire situation, the whole entire, attitude of the day, the way that she's going to be, feeling when she goes to work, the way that she's going to be coming back home to you. Like, I don't personally see any problem with that. And I think, yeah, going back to, Paul Fess's rant, I mean, most guys don't have no game. So it's like, it's one of those things. It's like a lot of guys, a lot of guys have an insecurity. And so they're like, who you getting dressed up for? Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, and I look at it like, hell yeah. Fuck yeah. She's coming back home to me. Yeah. Look, don't touch. But that's the way that I see it, is that it gets to a point where it's like you could change the whole entire attitude and your relationship throughout the whole entire day, to avoid that conflict. And it's like, hype your girl up. Like she's going to work. She's going to, she's going out to have fun or do the things that she needs to do to provide for the household. So it's like, yeah, I don't see a problem with that in my purview.
Yeah, I do want to expand on what Alexa said, because I've heard that multiple times from a lot of women that they're afraid that that oftentimes men will show them a certain version of themselves in the beginning, but hide the true version of themselves, and they show up later and they change. Is that why you're saying, Alexa?
Yeah.
So you don't. So I guess I want to pass it to the panel and Carmen and all the fellas here tonight. Are there ways? Are there certain things that women can do to make sure that if they can really fully vet out and see the true identity of the man that she's dating before she's gonna give her fully commit to this man, especially long term? Is there a vetting process that she can put him through? Are there things that she can do to So because I do know as a guy that there are guys out there in the streets who try to put up a front, a persona of themselves to get whatever they want from this woman, or try to put them in a toxic situation for whatever, but they don't really show their true version of themselves. And I think that's why a lot of women today are afraid of, or they think about as far as risk. Like, I just want to make sure I'm with a good man and that he is who he say he is if I'm going to commit to him. I'll pass it back to the panel. Anybody want to just jump in there? Anything you can think of?
Well, one of the questions I was going to ask her is like, did you spot any red flags, like looking back at it now that you got the experience? And I know you mentioned that did you kind of see any, like, I'll say insecurities early on?
I wouldn't say insecurities because, like Will was saying, he tried to project that he was a very secure man, that he loved himself, yada, yada, yada. But I always had a gut feeling that this is not what I'm supposed to be in, or like something's going to happen. I always had that gut feeling, but I didn't listen to it.
You know,
Why was you kind of getting that gut feeling, though? What did you kind of like?
What triggered that? What did he do?
Yeah.
Like even in the beginning, I would joke around saying, "Oh, I can't be with you because you're gonna try to keep me in a box or control me," and I guess that was really a sign saying, "Girl, don't get in this." Just based on how, because we used to work together, so just based on how he used to, work and his work ethic and who he was, yeah.
Okay. Now the reason I ask is typically. Oh, go ahead, Carmen. Sorry about that.
I just only from my personal experiences, and I love that you guys are here so that you guys can give me the male perspective. I've always thought that real men don't actually have to say it out loud that they are secure.
That's one.
Absolutely. Like I've never known, like, when I had a good relationship, he never told me that he was a secure man. He would just show me. So would you say that is true? A secure man doesn't actually say that he's a secure man. He just is.
Nah, definitely.
True. They live by their standards.
So this is what I have conversation with Will about. If you have to qualify yourself as such, you're not as such.
In any
You have
matrix.
to qualify yourself as secure, you're not as secure. You have to qualify yourself as quote unquote alpha, you're not an alpha. Or whatever these terms that people use. We do. One of the saying that I like saying, and it's become a cliche, is I'm a man, therefore I do. It's all there is to it. And I don't need to sing it out to the world. And I think you'll find most men who follow the same sort of philosophy, they just do. Mm-hmm. I'm not here to qualify whether I'm this or that. Maybe you either want it or you don't. And that's fine either way.
Yeah. Most labels are given by other people in their circle, they don't put it on themselves. You can't walk in your job and say, okay, I'm the supervisor. Somebody has to give you the title of supervisor because the actions you've shown have garnered that respect that you're due. And that's what it is. Like anybody that's like saying, I'm secure. Like you said, there may be a red flag. They may be overcompensating for some insecurities that they may have. But if you hear it from his circle, man, that's one of the most secure brothers I've ever seen. Then you might give it some credence. You can believe it a little bit if other people are saying it.
Yeah. Alexa, did you ever get feedback from other people that about him, or
like coworkers?
Like coworkers, friends.
Well, I didn't have friends that knew him.
Okay.
But we had coworkers, and for the most part, yeah, they would say he's stuck up or he's rude or things like that. But I didn't listen.
Yeah, see.
You have to learn to listen.
Yeah.
He was like, look at that smile. And you were just like, forget all that other shit, huh?
Yeah.
What's some of the questions you got, Carmen? I'm curious what's on that piece of paper.
Well, actually, it had to do with the question I originally asked Will on like Sunday morning. So I was part of this whole cast on Saturday night, and I just noticed that Will, you were really drilling in on like men, like good masculine men. And so for me, good masculine men is such a broad, and vague thing to say about I just want to say just a good human being. But you were really drilling on like men want to be the protector and the provider of your family.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt a little out of the loop because I'm an older woman that I'm aging out of bearing children anyways. So I had asked Will, like, what about the women who are aging out of childbearing years? Like, does this man still want to protect and provide, for a good woman or his version of a good woman? I would love to hear that. Like, as an older woman, obviously I'm not married, something I'm striving for, but I know I can't provide the family at the moment, you know, or maybe I
Do you
could do surrogacy, you know, but
hold on a second? Do you feel like the family dynamic is a family dynamic if there's children involved? Do you think a man and a woman together can be a family by themselves without children?
yeah.
Okay, so hence he would still want to protect the family. He want to protect you. You want to make sure you're okay. You want to make sure that you're feeling heard, that you're feeling actualized, that you're taken care of, regardless. And let's just say another dynamic. And I said this, we were talking about it back and forth in the chat. I mean, in our group. It was like, and let's say he has children, and you take over you start to nurture his children. You know, there's other things that you can do as well. You don't necessarily have to have his children for a man to want to feel you as family and want to protect and provide for you. As long as you're providing those things that he deems valuable and he finds value in, that's what makes him want to try to protect, not just because you got kids. You know, because I was protecting and providing my wife before we had children. And I consider them my family. And once our children are gone, grown up, I'm still going to protect and provide for my wife because she's still my family, because I value the things that she brings to my life and who she is. So yeah, of course, somebody's going to want to protect and provide you if you being a dope ass wife.
But I think like if you're going out on dates and stuff and you're having those conversations, I mean, I would be making sure that I communicate to somebody that, you know, my household's in order. Like I don't have like unruly kids that's going to come in and disrespect you. Cause I know that's one thing, like who man or women is probably going to be scared of coming into the household. Like, you know, are the kids like wild, or how's that going to work out? So I would be like, you know, I make sure like, for example, I got a son. So if I was like on the market, I'd be like, nah, you know, I got the whole like, house under control. My kids, you know, are well behaved. You know, I'll be kind of making sure that, you know, as far as like my spouse, you know, my ex, whatever, you know, we got a good relationship, or here's the structure of it. If it's not, you know, great, but there's no boundaries being crossed and stuff. So I'll kind of communicate that up front. And then also as far as like provision might be a little different. Because like I said, you know, typically like people, I'll say in our age group, we're coming there with like different kids where it's just like, probably you don't want to push everything on that person, but it's like, hey, I do got stuff under control. So if we merge together, you know, I'm on board, like, however, we're going to like, you know, do the finances and stuff. So I think you got to be a little more open. So provision might look a little different because you know, he's got his family too. It's not like somebody could probably come in and take on everything. So you guys are probably going to be working, you know, along each other, like side by side type of thing.
Will you kind of separate like the unit per se? I only say this because I feel like if we have two blended families, we work together as a unit regardless. So my finance would still become your finances and yours would be mine. That's just an idea. Obviously, I've not been married. I don't have experience. You know, I want it, but you know, I wouldn't want to treat his kids differently than I treat mine. Like
you shouldn't.
I would still want, you know, my man to discipline my son. Like I have a son, he's grown now. But I'm just saying, like, I would want my guy to be able to come in and discipline, and if he needs to talk to him, have like the heart to hearts, you know. And I think I'd want to have the heart to heart, you know, with my spouse, and then if they have kids, to also treat them like my kids. You know, which would mean like, hey, let's go out for dinner, my treat, you know. So I don't know.
I think that's healthy because you know, it's just like there'll be like different dynamics because, you know, he might be paying child support, or he might have like a college fund set up. So that's what I'm saying. You're gonna have to have like definitely conversations on like the finances because, you know, for example, you might have money for going towards your kids like a trust fund. So, you know, it'll be wrong for somebody to come in there like, no, you know, you shouldn't be doing that. Do it, you know, my way. So you got to take certain things in consideration, how somebody would have their stuff structured, you know, in them circumstances, and be like, well, you know what, those are her kids. Like you said, even though we're going to treat everybody the same, like if those structures were established before we got with each other, I do got to accept that. And you're doing it for the right cause. So you just got to kind of like look at things differently, I would say.
Yeah. I grew up with a stepdad. Oh, go ahead, Pellet.
Kids is a young man's game, to be honest. So when you're looking at men around certain age come, and they're probably not looking at provision and protection in the same way a young man would. So, look, again, I think this is where, unfortunately, social media has conflated what men do, what men actually are. We just are, we just do. And when we find a pretty thing, we take care of that pretty thing, right? That's why we look at our wives and adore our wives the way we do. Whether she has children or not, we look after her because she brings certain dynamic to us that we wouldn't get anywhere else, right? So, again, I think the issue with social media now is that you've got weak men who are so very loud in the ways that they try and describe men that's now getting lost in translation. We want to take care of the people that we share things with, and I think even the provision part needs to evolve more than finance. Provision may look like to you as a man you can just run up to, put your head on his chest, and just feel absolutely at calm, security, and safe. So that's part of provision. Or when he's around, you feel a certain type of feeling that, or a presence, that makes you giddy, makes you smile. That look at this goofy ass walking around the house, but I love him. I wouldn't be anywhere in the world right now, but be here right here with him. That provision is so much more than just finances, but I get it why it's being involved in the conversation. So again, provision may be leadership. Maybe don't go down that road, or let's go Tuesday. I feel like Tuesday might be the right time to go and have date. Monday doesn't feel like Monday. Okay, so again, I think when we look at provision and protection in terms of a young man's game, which is typically what Will and I speak about, it's very different. As men age, we like different things and we look at different things. Over a certain age, we're no longer interested in having kids. We want companionship. We want to look after people. And if we're single, we want to look after someone intimately. And that's where the relationship dynamic comes in.
Carmen, do you don't want kids, right? Any more kids, correct?
I actually did.
Oh, you did?
Well, I mean, I'm 41. Like, this is, if I try to
You
have any
need
more kids, it's like geriatric, like pregnancy.
Yeah, I was like,
It's high risk, you know?
you need to think about whether or not you really want kids. And the thing is, I worry is that you'd be like, okay, I'll get with a guy and I'll be open to the idea of kids. And I think at this age, it would be a significant strain on your relationship,
Yeah,
to have that be a part of the dynamic. Because you said you got a grown kid already, right?
I
But
do.
do you feel like you'd be doing it if you met somebody who was like, oh man, you dope. I know you're 41, but I really want to have kids. I'm 50. I never had a kid. I really want to have a kid. And you'd be like, okay, baby, I'll go ahead and do it for you. If I'll try to do it for you. Stay away from dudes who want kids. I
Who
don't think
don't
it's
want?
who want kids, who want you to have children.
Stay
That's
away
just
from
my
me,
advice to you.
Yeah, I'm with Dame on that.
Stay away from a guy who is still looking to have kids. Don't be that. Let him find a 28-year-old, 30-year-old to have
No.
kids and stuff like that. Don't do that. Don't have kids, because right now you're at that age where you should be enjoying the dynamic of just you and your partner.
No,
And the
yeah,
two of you.
totally. Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
totally agree.
don't be having kids for no 50-year-old dude
Right,
or
well,
no
Yeah,
hence
48-year-old
why I
dude.
said I did.
Okay,
There
good,
was
and
a point
it's
in time
fine.
where I'm like,
It's fine.
yeah, no, it's all good. Well, the thing is, I say that because I never envisioned myself with just one. Like, I wanted to have, to be honest, I wanted to have five. I wanted to have I wanted to have a whole basketball team, just yeah. But I wasn't blessed with that. I didn't find somebody on time, so
Yeah.
it's all good.
Here's my opinion. I differ from Damien. If you find a man who's follows these three tenets, we talk about these things all the time on the masculine mind: accountable, disciplined, and resilient. You have to be realistic in terms of your own health. Go see a doctor if you want to have kids. Communicate that across and make sure that you're both on the same page. And go see a doctor and see what's the viability of having children. And I would say, over the age of 40, but again, Latinas in Pacific Islanders are a slightly different breed. I think maybe the black community is the same. There are some of us who still have babies in our 40s, right?
Yeah.
They do.
So, look, be realistic. Get some professional advice in terms of what's the viability, but it has to be communicated across, and you both have to agree in the sense of, okay, we want to try and have kids at this age. We have to be realistic with what it's going to cost us. Is it going to cost us time? Is it going to cost us health, money? And all these things need to be at least communicated and agreed upon. Again, this is the beauty of communication, is that we get to say these things and we get to agree on these things. And again, masculinity when it comes to men is not a loose term. It's just one thing: high integrity. And men of high integrity are just accountable, and they're typically resilient, and they'll speak about these things.
Yeah.
If they want to have children, they'll communicate that with you.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like actually, before I even get into dating men, I usually just say what it is that I would like to strive for before moving on.
Yeah.
So you said, when you have you say you have that conversation, like, okay, you sit down and like, here's the thing, or you have that conversation with yourself, or you having it with the person you're thinking of considering as a partner.
Well, both. First off, I have to say that I'm an avid annotator. Like I love to take notations, and I have a journal. I write things down. So when it comes to like the traits of a man, for example, you guys have these 3 things, and I have like 25 things.
That's usually how it works with men and women.
Well, what's that TV show where they came out with the pillars, with the list of the lady stuff? I forgot, what was it, Dr. Phil or somebody?
Seriously, I wouldn't be surprised if that you didn't have. Yeah, that you did that. The funny thing is, we train our mind to think that list gets shorter the older women get, but sometimes it gets longer, it gets larger, because they seem to be more at stake in a lot of women's mind. But that's not surprising that you have a 25
well, I mean,
list of what you need.
It's being very like I want to say it's just like how Paulo said, like integrity. You guys didn't say integrity within your pillar of masculine men, or what a good masculine man is. Although that's different, so yes, you have your accountability, but I mean, it's also tied in with integrity, because these are 2 different things, so my list has a little bit more descriptive words to describe whatever it is that I'm looking for, and characteristics and traits I'm looking for.
Would you mind sharing that list with us?
I don't have it on me right now.
Oh, okay,
but, but for example, like a quality that I know I appreciate is a family man. One of the reasons why, like, if a man has a great relationship with his father and his mother, these are 2 good things, especially if they're able to communicate with those 2. These are 2 different generations, and we're able to kind of communicate these things. And he has to be able to learn to communicate with his woman's, and that's through practice with his parents, or with his brother or with his sister. So having a good family bond is something that's important to me. Just like I wanted to have more kids, obviously you got to be a family man, from the get. So that's just one trait that I know that not everybody shares. Some people don't have a great relationship with their mom or their dad. And I've seen it, through an ex-partner who hated his mom, or an ex-partner who hated his dad.
Did you add that to the list after you experienced that, or that was already a list, but you looked past it because of who he was?
No. So just like how you're saying, the list kind of gets longer as we get older, and it's because I'm starting to witness these things. Like, I grew up with both my parents, so it's not like although they were separate, they were very civil towards each other. But it wasn't something I thought about as a younger woman, to be like, oh, he needs to have a great relationship with his parents. But then when I witnessed this gentleman being terrible to his mother, and I'm just like, okay, that's terrible. Like, let me add that to that list, So it did grow as I've experienced life, And just like how we were saying earlier, how Will asked about, like, what are the risks of, like, being with a partner, committing, and Alexis was just like, change. Now, first off, I believe in change. I believe in, you can't be that same 20-year-old man in your 40s, and just like just like trees and flowers, we grow. There's a stage. We get up there, we die down, we come right back, and we die down, we grow a little bit more. So I believe in the evolution of change. But as far as like risks go, how Will said, I think, was, being able to see through that facade, you know, that mask that some people put up, you know, not to bring it back to that, but it's just, you know, learning to spot those red flags sooner than later.
So it sounds like
You know.
your list is mainly like based on characteristics and like values. So it's not like,
Yeah.
you know, people with like, he's got to be 6 foot, he's got to be this. It's none
It's
of that.
on there.
Like,
Carmen, don't front. It's on there.
No. Let me
know-
tell you. Look, I've had all types of like. Let me just tell you, I dated somebody who was handicapped who had no arm. Like seriously, I didn't need his arm. I need his time and his attention.
He was
like,
6
for
foot.
real.
Yeah, it's good.
He was like 5'8". You know, but let me tell you, like my best partner I've ever had was like my height. You know, he was amazing, and I wouldn't change that for the world. Like, let him be my height. It's cool. You know,
okay.
you know, it's really, for me, I can't speak for all women because I know, much like some men, you need to be attracted to whoever it is that you want to date or whatnot. It doesn't work that way for me. I don't. The way what I see is cool, you know, but that's gonna get old. You're gonna age. You're gonna have gray hairs. You're gonna have wrinkles, you know. But who you are on the inside should stay forever. If you're funny, you're gonna be funny forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to stay laughing. I don't want to stay crying. That's not happening. Not here. You know.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't agree with people who just judge a book off their cover. I like to read the book.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be some clarification. So the reason why we pick the 3 tenets the way that we do is because it's tangible for both men and women, right? Integrity is a byproduct of those tenets.
Mhm.
If you find a highly accountable man who's also disciplined and resilient, you often find that it's the manifestation of those 3 things in harmony is high integrity, right? So that's why, you know, we often say this, there are many great qualities to a man, but it's all founded in accountability, resilience, and discipline. So that's why we focus on those things. It's very tangible. One of the ways that you can gauge how accountable a man is how he speaks about his previous relationships, especially the painful ones. You know, it speaks to many other characters, but again, the 3 tenets for us is very tangible in terms of both men and women, and it gives men at least something, a linear sort of gauge on what to practice.
Yeah.
If you want to be accountable, start with decisions. It's a responsibility matrix rather than a fault metric.
Yeah.
People often use the word accountability to whip each other with. Oh, you need to be accountable because you did X, Y, and Z, rather than looking at, okay, who was responsible for that? Take responsibility for the actions that you made, the decisions that you made, right? So that's where we differ in these kind of conversations. And resilience and discipline goes a long way too. A man who can stand in the gap, especially when life throws curveballs, and he can stand there and go, hey, it is what it is. I'm a man, therefore I'm going to stand here and withstand these things. So I hope that clarifies it for you. And again, this speaks to how simple-minded we are as men. And it's not always bad. It gives us at least tangible things to grab at and grab a hold of rigidly too. So I wanted to make that clarification so that you can understand why we only pick 3. It's very impactful in the ways that we practice them. And a lot of other great qualities come from those being your foundation.
Yeah, if you can find those 3 qualities in a man, Carmen, then you can build those 25 qualities on top on that list. On that list.
It's like the umbrella of everything else.
The foundation of the house. Once you get the foundation in, you can build that house. The 25 things you need for that house, you just can get those 3 qualities: accountability, resiliency, and discipline. And also, I do want to say, if you do want to have kids in your 40s, Carmen, please, especially if they're older men, make sure he's physically in shape to raise a child. Don't get
thank you.
Don't get the men in the walker ready to get retirement home.
You don't want me changing 2 people's diaper at the same time.
You'll be raising 2 kids.
Oh my God!
You're raising an adult male and whatever child you have. Make sure he's fit. Make sure he's fit has the energy and the vitality to raise a child with you, or you're gonna have 2 jobs in your head. You know, so just want to throw it out there.
Funny.
And I've seen a lot of some guys like they want kids, but I was like, dude, you're walking in a walker right now. How can you raise a child?
One of my close friends still talk that when I have kids stuff. I'm like, dude, you're almost 50, man. I mean, that needed to happen like 20 years ago, you know?
Not everybody looks like The Rock in their 40s and their 50s,
Exactly.
So just gotta throw it out there. I want to pass it. I want to Alexa. Anything you want to add on? What Carmen was talking about, what we were discussing. Just want to get your input.
I liked how she said, "I'm just totally went blank," but no, I agree that you should communicate what you need. Okay, I remembered. She says she communicates what she wants before she even takes that step forward, and I think that saves both parties a lot of time. And I think that's something that I'm still learning to implement and okay, this is what it is, what I want. Are you willing? Do you want the same thing? If not, cool. Like, I'm not gonna fall for just the cute smile, like Damien said. Like, nah, I've learned my lesson.
But you got to be careful, though. You got to be careful because you could dump a bunch of shit on a person. He could be like, "Whoa, I just met you. Let me get to know you. I mean, and he may not that he's not able to provide those things. It's just like you might have just surprised him, like, whoa, he may not be in the mind to receive what you're saying, and may just be like, this woman's high maintenance. I need to step back. So you got to watch how to do it. I don't think you should be like, if you do it, you should baby step those things, and it needs to be a multiple of conversations to have to understand where his mind is, and if but you get all the things you want out. But like I said, don't just be like, I need you this. Here's my list. Blah 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 blah. Check off all the things you say yes to, and you just have a lot of conversations to determine, because you'll get real answers that if he has time to like think about it and process what you're saying.
Yeah, one of the
Over
biggest
drinks.
mistakes.
There needs to be drinks involved.
That's true. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I do see a lot of women do online, especially on social media, is they'll post their list on social media. That's the worst thing to do. And I see a lot of girls do it. They'll post their list of what they want their man to do, and I'm like, man, those guys are just gonna waste their time. They're just taking notes.
Yep, it's like that. What's that show? He gonna become. I'm all that. Oh, I'm a God-fearing. I love my mom. I love dogs. I work out. I'm all that.
Yeah,
it's just like that show. He's gonna become all that stuff just to get you. And once he got you, he's gonna be like, oh yeah, that was bullshit.
Yeah, let him earn it and let him show it. Like Paulo said, men, they don't need to qualify themselves. They just move that way, and you can see it as a woman. So. I do want to expand on the topic that Alexa brought up, because it's something I do hear from a lot of women about the risk of getting into a marriage. It's a term that we always hear online. It's I'm afraid that we're gonna grow apart, and there's a lot of clips online that I see a lot of women saying, hey, look, the version of my husband 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it's not the same version of the husband I expected him to be. He turned out different, and we kind of grew up apart, and we went different ways, especially when it came to the direction of where they wanted to go financially, or what they wanted to do with their family. And I see that a lot online. I just want to bring that up, and we can just kind of discuss that. And I'll start off with Alexa. What do you think about that, Alexa? Is that something that you think about? That, because you did mention that you're afraid that the guy would change, but is that something that women think about? Hey, like, if I'm going to marry this guy, that we're going to 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we're going to grow apart. Because it's a buzzword that I hear online. That the reason why we got divorced, the reason why our relationship failed, because we just grew apart from each other.
Yeah. So when I said that I was afraid that they'll change, I meant it more like change into like psycho, like just completely just change. That's what I mean. Okay. But Carmen did mention that people do change, people evolve, and sometimes people do grow apart. But in a relationship, that's why it's so important to have that communication, so you're clear on how you're feeling, what your partner's feeling, what are your new goals, and having that foundation and communication to grow and change together. But if that communication is not there, like, people are going to grow apart. Like, yeah, it's inevitable.
Thank you for sharing that, Alexa. Can I ask the panel, what does that mean for you guys when you guys hear grow apart? I think for me, when I hear people say we grew apart, I don't think they really established their values and standards and what they wanted in the beginning. So that way it's absolutely clear. But I think sometimes people never have those hard conversations, like you guys mentioned, Dirk and Damien, and you never have set the expectations in a relationship, and also the direction of your genuine, authentic direction of where you want to go, and we kind of tiptoe around that and try to hopefully figure it out later. But because if that's absolutely clear going into the relationship, so there should be no issue of the direction of where you guys going, and you guys shouldn't have to worry about growing apart. I think that's the way I interpret it when people say, "Oh, we grew up apart." But I'm interested to hear what you guys think about that. I'll pass it to you, Carmen, and I'll go to the fellas. Carmen, what is like when people say, "Oh, the marriage failed because we grew apart"? What's your diagnosis on that? Like when people say that?
Same with what Alexa says. It's just lack of communication, or just sometimes just not even knowing what it is that you want at the time. Because some people, it might be the right person, wrong time, you know. And I can only speak on personal experiences, like, you know, where I was just in one situation where I wasn't sure. This is way back, long time ago, where I wasn't sure if I wanted to have more kids because I was stressed out, and I'm a single mom, and I'm not sure if I can handle another one, you know. And then I wanted to have more kids, and then I had that conversation, but we were already in a relationship, and he didn't. So, you know, so we had to, you know, we had to part ways, and so we grew apart because we both wanted something very different. So I think it's just that, just a lack of communication, or just not knowing what you want, and then honestly, the communication came in too late. So I would say that's it.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Carmen. What do you guys, fellas? Anybody go? What do you guys think? And when people say, "Oh, we grew apart," what do you think? What does that mean?
I think sometimes people start lacking, I say, gratitude and appreciation. And I mean, just I say a human function is you kind of start nitpicking somebody you've been with for a while. So I tell people all the time, I'm like, hey, if you want a good person that's loyal and stuff, you got to take it back to the core of what you wanted and appreciate that, you know, because it's like everybody's not going to be the same, you know, especially like we were talking about, you get older, you might start liking different hobbies. So I think sometimes people feel like we got to like everything. We got to do everything together. You know, what Alexa was talking about, the guy where he was tripping out, where she was going to her family's house. Hell, you should be embracing that. Like, go to your mom's house. Y'all want to go to a play or something? Let me get y'all some tickets, you know, and let him go do some like activities if he's like fishing or something. So find those hobbies apart from each other. But anytime you start getting to that point where you're just like kind of nitpicking, be like, you know what, that's a dedicated person that's always been loyal. They might not be perfect, but they're always a rider for me. So I'm not going to sit there and worry about the minute things and start nitpicking them and end up losing a good person, because honestly, hearing a lot of people is rare out there. So if you got something good, just always take it back to them core things that you said you wanted, you know. And I think that would alleviate a lot of stuff, because it's easy to start just kind of like nitpicking somebody and stuff, and you'll end up chasing them off. So
yeah, I feel like when somebody said they grow apart, basically what you're saying is I've experienced something that I don't feel comfortable sharing with my partner, or for some reason I'm not sharing it with my partner. Like there's like, for example, let's just use one of the obvious one. Say if somebody decides they want to get more religious, they want to say, okay, I want to start going to church and stuff like that. Like, okay, we grew apart. Basically, there was some reason why you don't feel like that could be shared between the two of you, because maybe you married an atheist and you were one, but then you had a religious awakening and now you're religious or what have you. Then you need to have that conversation and be like, okay, how does that affect what we started to? How does that change the things we kind of agreed upon? You need to have that discussion. Like, I've had an experience that has changed the way I view certain things, and we need to talk about that. You know, that's the thing. It's usually, like I said, something has happened that's changed the agreed upon trajectory, and people aren't communicating effectively. Like, okay, it could be lack of, you might feel judged, or you feel the person's not receptive to it, or you might just be a selfish person who wants to experience it all to yourself, whatever. But if you're not communicating the experience to your partner, then it's gonna keep you guys separate. It's gonna make sure that you always view yourself separate, and then other little things you're gonna say, oh, I kept that separate, let me keep this separate. And you're just gonna always have that separation between the two, and it's gonna build a foundation of keeping things apart from each other. And then that's people say we grew apart, because there's gonna be so much shit separating you guys that you're gonna forget the things that brought you together.
Okay.
And then Terrence, just to check, Terrence, your values and standards don't change, your preferences change. Shout out to Palafessa.
Yes, sir. Facts. Facts, Terrence. Prime, you want to add on?
No, I think everybody hit it on the dot. I mean, as far as growing apart, I mean, I can take a piece of what I have experienced. I'm one of the very few that do feel as if we grew apart. And I mean, it is a lack of what I was capable of at the time due to the fact that my hands were tied. And it's not so much to say that, you know, I'm uncomfortable with sharing, you know, what happened between the two of us. And it was a neglect on both ends. You know, I'm not saying that it's entirely her fault. I'm not saying it's entirely my fault, but I am owing up to and taking accountability of what, you know, there are a lot of things that I feel like I could have done better. There are a lot of things that I feel like, you know, I didn't want to fail at. I didn't want to fail at being a husband, and then yet I still do. You know, and it goes to say, you know, there's only so much that you can do, because it goes both ways, you know, and it's not always a one-way street, and we have to take that in consideration, especially when you guys are both adults. You know, there is that tendency to be childish, and I'm not going to say that, you know, I'm not guilty of that, because I was. You know, there was a time where I was kind of guilty of being childish and, you know, asking why me, like why is this, why am I having to deal with this? But to look back at it now, it's like post clarity, it's more along the lines of, you know what, this was made for me. This was a trial that I was meant to go through, because now I can then, you know, further my expectations moving forward, not just of my partner, but of myself. And I think that that's something that not a lot of men reflect on. And, you know, shout out to Jerk, because Jerk was able to help me, you know, Jerk was able to coach me through that. And it's like, you know, it's the legacy that, you know, I've always wanted to build. And as long as I can stay true to that legacy and stay true to those values, then I'm okay. I know that I'll be okay in the end. And so, yeah, that's my purview.
Okay. And then, Balo, did you want to add on anything?
Yeah, I think people have a tendency to freeze moments in time, especially at peak positive experiences. And then they spend the entirety of their relationship comparing what's currently reality to that, whatever that is. This is why people don't want to embrace change. Look, well, you and I have had this conversation. I look forward to the changes that my wife goes through, because it gives me an opportunity to learn more about this woman every season that we go through, right? It brings excitement, and it's the adventure of being in a relationship. You're ever growing, you're ever evolving, and you change things. The caveat to that is we shouldn't allow ourselves to despise the person that we're with. So if they're showing signs of behaviors that we don't like and it makes us resent them, we should speak about it. Look, baby, when you do this thing, it really moves me in a certain way. How come you do that? Like, let's have a conversation around it. Oh, you know, I've just grown accustomed to doing it that way. Okay, can we do it a different way? Again, I think sometimes people are overgrown children where we have the ability to sit down, and again, communication in its early stages are usually abrasive, because people stand guard and they don't want to hurt the other person, but there is something very important in the expectation that we have, and it needs to be said. And what most people fear is that, oh, if I say the thing that I need to address, then I might lose the other person. And you haven't actually agreed on to why you're in the relationship in the first place, right? we change and we evolved, and there are things that we have less tolerance with as we grow older. So we should speak about these things. That's what healthy relationships are. Oh, look, Han, I don't like it that you come home very late. You used to do that in your 30s, but now that in your 40s, I would like more time with you. Fair enough. Okay, I'll make some time to come home at 4 rather than 5. Oh, I don't like it when you walking grumpy and twist your face like that with me. Oh, I've just grown accustomed to it. That's just how my face is. No, you look beautiful, and I love it when you smile. It's a dance. Communication is beautiful, especially when we get over the abrasive side of it. But again, stop freezing moment in times. People tend to do this thing, especially in the honeymoon phase. Damn, that's when she was the most beautiful. Oh, that's when he was most the way he was. I'm going to freeze that, and I'm going to compare him for the entirety of our relationship, or I'm going to compare it. Get over it. You change. Things change, and you learn to adapt, and you learn to live with each other. The thing is, it goes back to our notion of accountability. We have made a choice and a decision to be with each other. Let's honor that decision. And we honor it each and every day. I say this, love is I choose you today, always, even in days where it's difficult to understand you. I love you. That's what love should mean.
All right, follow, man. I appreciate that. Always dropping bombs. But I want to pass. As always, a lot of you guys watching this in the live chat. I appreciate you guys watching this in the live chat. Thank you so much. A lot of you guys are watching from IG, so I appreciate you guys watching from IG. Don't forget, this is a public show, so if you do want to jump on, the link is in the description below. So if you're watching this from IG, I know a lot of you guys are commenting on IG. How do I jump on? Come over from IG to YouTube and click on that link, and you'll be able to jump on and be part of the conversation. I definitely would love to hear from both men and women. I do see a lot of people on the who disagree on certain things that we're talking about tonight. I would love to have a conversation with you on why you disagree, and then and communicate with us. All right. But let me pass it back to the panel real quick. Carmen, I know you had a list, so we took care of one. What's the second one? What's the second most the second most biggest risk that you have on that list, and we can expand on that.
Wait, what do you mean risk?
Well, what's the next most important thing that you want to bring to the conversation based on the list of the things that you wanted to ask?
Oh, the questions.
Yeah, the questions.
My
Yes.
questions. My
Yeah.
questions. Yes. Oh, okay. So I did, since I didn't really tune in at 7:00, but I did see your prompts. And then you guys said you guys talked about it. Do you mind giving me a synopsis of what you guys did say? Even though you're like, worth the risk. Can you tell me what the risks were and what the cons were?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What the first thing that we discussed, a lot of the risk a lot of men are saying about marrying the modern women is a lot of guys are afraid that you guys are going to take half our shit. So a lot of women, there's incentive for women, especially based on the way the laws are created today. It's more advantageous towards the woman financially if there's a divorce. So a lot of guys, that's why there is a group of men online that they believe that marriage is not worth the risk, because how do we know that she truly loves me? Especially if a guy has status, if he has financial stability, he's doing well for himself. They're afraid that the woman is just gonna use him for his money, because divorce is something that's normalized today in America. People talk about divorce like, oh yeah, if it doesn't work out, I'll just get divorced. It's kind of crazy how the mentality of the way people see divorce nowadays. Usually back in the day, people didn't want to get divorced, because there was a consequence, whatever it's community aspect to it, reputation, or maybe shame of maybe a failed relationship. So people really put in effort to make it work. But that's the thing that the men brought it up. I just want to ask you, ladies, what do you guys think about that? That a lot of guys are saying don't get married because you guys will end up leaving us and take half our shit and the kids.
Well, so you take half the stuff, but you also talked about having the woman stay home to take care of the kids, for the first few years. and it's funny that, I don't want to say it's funny because it's not. I'm not laughing, but it's
Interesting.
it's interesting. Yes,
Yeah.
it's
There you go.
interesting that would be such a big deal, especially if she's also giving up half of her time too, like to work. Like specifically giving your example from Saturday,
Yeah.
you know, woman stays home, take care of the kids. She's not working. You know, you don't want her to work. You know, maybe she can go out every now, whatever your rules are within
Yeah.
your,
Yeah.
you know, but it was just like she wasn't able to work, and now there's this really big gap on her resume, you know, and she missed out on a lot. Wouldn't it be a little bit worth a, I don't want to say compensation because it's not, but I feel like there should be some sort of give and take, especially if that's what you're willing to risk, you know, for her to give up parts of her life, her time, her body, her, you know, to give up to do the housework.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just I'm not having the words for this, but I'm assuming that this is something that you would talk about with your partner and you would know this in advance. Like, you know, this is what I want to do before you even get married, right? So I would assume you guys talk about the risks before the marriage. Um,
You would assume wrong.
Yeah.
no,
Those
no.
you would
No,
assume
nobody's
absolutely
talking about that.
no. I'm saying in a perfect in good relationships they have that conversation, but most
Mhm.
relationships they're not having that deep dive into fighting that type of openness or comfortability with their partner to have that kind of really hard relationship conversation about okay, what happens if we don't work out? Because everybody's we're going to work out, and if if we talk about that, we're putting it out there, we're manifesting a bad relationship. People they have this idealized view of what a relationship is. They forget like there's a serious financial aspect of it that you need to consider as well. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think enough people are having that relationship, because if they did, I mean having that conversation, because they did, men would realize there's mechanisms in place to keep them from getting taken by a woman who, because they feel like the law all incentivized for the woman to take half. They get alimony, they get child support, they get half your shit.
Right.
Not if you're a man who does his due diligence and take advantage of the same mechanisms that the women have to protect yourself. It's just women, and women just are just more diligent about that shit. Especially the women who've sacrificed so much. They'd be like, okay, I'm aware that I've given up my career for the last 10, 15 years, and now we're just going to break up. Let me learn everything I need to learn, and let me go to a lawyer. Let me learn everything I need to learn to make sure I'm taken care of. I'm not a greeter at Walmart.
Mhm.
Let me make sure of that. Men don't do that. We just don't, unless we have a vast amount of money, and we used to dealing with lawyers and all that kind of stuff like that. Men just don't.
Yeah.
They were relaxed the days ago when it comes to that shit. We're getting more in tune with it and getting more knowledgeable about it, but a lot of men just don't avail themselves of the mechanisms to protect themselves as well. And personally, I feel like this: if I marry you and I got $5 million and we together for some time, and when I get divorced, I got $10 million. You deserve $2.5 million. That's what it is, because you deserve half of whatever was progressed.
I'm with
I
Damien on
would say
this.
500,000, but I feel what Dame's saying. No, I'm joking.
I've got no look. If pigs started flying tomorrow and my wife woke up and said, "I want a divorce," I'd say, "Great. I'll have my asset with you. You've taken time off to bear my children. You've been a great woman to me. And if this is the case, then therefore you should have at least half to be looked after. I have things put in motion that should I pass away tomorrow, my wife is taken care for the next 5 years. So is my children, right? So I have no gripe in that sense. But again, risk mitigation should be one of the first few skills that a man should develop. If marriage is a risk, you have to at least understand what are the risks and the entirety of it. Okay, she no longer wants to be married. Why? People just don't wake up out of the blue and fall out of love, right? That's not even possible, even from people who are a lot smarter than I am, who've done study on the brain. Habits don't just change like that unless there's a huge impact to the head, right? And we condition relationship for breakup. We absolutely do. We don't say things that needs to be said. And people end up 10, 20 years down the line and they go, oh, shit, it finally hit the fan and we no longer can stand each other. And when it gets to that point, of course, you're going to be absolutely negative towards each other. Most people have the grace to allow those things to break cleanly, but oftentimes most people don't. So again, this whole idea of, and this is where I co-sign Damien, if this woman is bearing your children, if she's having to take a step back from the workforce, which is a reality that needs to be acknowledged, men and women are working. We have to be adults, especially in this economy in the West. If she's going to take that step back to be the ideal traditional woman that we demand, she should be taken care of. Because you made that decision as a man, right? But again, this does not excuse women who just goes after men to have their children and then take half of their shit.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to say that most women are doing that, but I can assume that there are a possibility that there are women like that. But again, people are missing so much of the dynamic that make relationship work that they look at an outcome and just go, oh, bad woman, bad man. That's not even a fraction of what goes into relationship that breaks relationship.
Go ahead. Do you want to say something?
Just like Terrence was saying, that your point might have been missed, that the man should want to do that. Of course, absolutely should want to do it, but when it comes to when it gets to money, things could be funny, and it could be where things have to be put in place to ensure that it's taken care of. The want could be there, but then something go wrong and he don't want to do it no more. He don't want to take care of you anymore. And I think what a lot of guys risk, because we're talking about the guys' risk, is that say you go back to that situation where you married a rich guy, or a guy who's paying all the bills or whatever, and there's a certain standard he was able to provide for you. A lot of guys was like, well, I shouldn't have to provide her with that same standard because she was getting that standard because she was with me. A lot of guys are thinking that way, like, okay, she should be, I'll give her and I'll pay for the kids, but then she needs to go out and make it herself. A lot of guys have that fucked up mentality where they're thinking, I'm not going to, if she's driving a Range Rover with me and she leave me, she shouldn't be driving a Range Rover no more. Yeah. That's why guys they put so much weight on this money thing. It's like, here I go, I got to maintain the standard of living of a woman who I ain't even with no more. And one of the reasons why I was giving her that standard of living because she was with me. Yeah. That's one of the risks that a lot of guys are putting out there of like, because Corey Holcomb made this joke about like him dating divorced women and like he at the house sitting on his couch playing on his pool table when he come to pick his own kids at the house he used to live in. That's like a lot of guys have that fear that they're going to be coming to the house they used to live in and there's going to be another man sitting on the couch that he bought.
Yeah, that's true. Alexa, did you want to add on? A lot of guys out there saying, and I would just say, I understand, the top 1% of men, but most guys who complain online about this, you don't have the assets to worry about losing half your shit. You don't have the ass. You have to worry. You don't really have to worry about that. I think I do understand that probably the 1% of men, but most guys, the average guy, you don't have to worry about losing half your shit. But Alexa, did you anything you want to add on your input?
No, I just love everything that Paulo said. Like after he speaks, I'm like, he said it all. But also what Damien said, it just depends on the mentality the person has. They can have a fucked up mentality, both the men and the women, and it just depends who you get in a relationship with. And that's why you have to be so discerning and communication from the very beginning. Yeah.
Effective communication.
Yeah.
Effective communication. Yes, I like that. Yeah.
Well, just to kind of jump in, I think this is where it starts breaking down to like good versus bad leadership. And I think one of the things, like Dame was hitting on it, people are scared to sound kind of bad when it comes to finances and putting stuff on the table. Cause I help a lot of people out with their finances, and I do stuff in a joking manner, but I'm like, hey, what happens when you guys don't like each other and you might get a divorce and stuff? How are you going to structure this up? They'll giggle, but it helps them like start planning ahead. Cause a lot of times it's just like, we were talking about it before you guys jumped on. It's just like, sometimes women do have that duress mindset. So it's just like, as guys going in there, you should be planning ahead. Like, I'm gonna make sure we're both good, so maybe we don't go get the like $10 million mansion. Maybe we start putting money aside and start investing. You teach her how to invest and stuff. So I think that's where you start building the woman up to have the skill sets and stuff in case something happens, where you're not looking at it like when I'm losing. It's like, hey, we both built to this. She has the mindset to like carry on and stuff. So I think people just go in their relationships blindly, like nothing's ever going to happen. And then that's, the guys that typically have I'll say, bad leadership style, they're looking at it like, oh, you're taking from me, versus like, we built some of this stuff up together. I did ask you to do this, but if I would have done it the right way, it'll really be a loss, because we're both going to gain out the situation. Because like, if me or my wife ever got divorced, it's like, hey, we both built this together. Like, there's no issue at all. And I think like Paulo and Dame and them have the same mindset, where it's just like, I'm gonna make sure you're whole. Because if I even went down that path with you, there was a reason why I did it. We had our kids with each other, whatever, so I'm going to honor that and make sure that you're in a good position.
And also, just to add on, and this is my perspective, men who are true provider protectors doesn't change. If we're married, I'm going to provide and protect for my family. If we're not married, I'm still going to take care of my kids. I'm still going to take care of the mother of my children. It's the essence of who I am as a man. Like, that's part of what I do as a man, is to provide and take care of the people I'm responsible for. And that's what the accountability comes in as far as our tenants. So it doesn't make sense for me, when because I do hear it online, when guys, as soon as they get divorced, and I do understand that divorce can be difficult for a lot of people, but they just don't want to provide for their kids no more, and they don't want to provide for their women no more. It doesn't make sense for me. It's like, that's still the mother of your children. That's still your kids. Like, you're no longer going to put any kind of effort to make sure they maintain their lifestyle so they can still live a good life. I mean, that's still your children. But I've seen it online with a lot of guys. As soon as they get divorced, they don't want to have no part of providing, protecting for their kids or for the woman. Just doesn't make sense. Player one. Oh, shout out to you. Thank you so much. Super chat. Shout out to you, man. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much for the super chat, player one. Appreciate you always supporting the show and always being a good supporter. I want to ask a question to the ladies, and it's something I think about all the time. And just to respond to what Dirk and Damien about having those hard conversations up front. But I want to ask Alexa and Carmen, outside of physical abuse, him being a criminal, doing drugs, being an alcoholic, infidelity, cheating on you, do you believe, outside of that, do you believe there's any other reason to justify getting divorced?
I would say laziness, no drive, no ambition.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that in a partner.
Okay. What about you, Carmen?
Reflect on your list.
Yeah. Well, he said outside of the, so those are all my no-go zones.
Yeah, so outside of
and
the
I wouldn't marry that.
Outside of the extremes, do you
Yeah.
believe is there any other reason to justify a divorce outside of the extreme behaviors, the toxic, terrible, bad behaviors a man can do to his wife?
I can't think of anything at the top of my head. You're gonna have to give me a second to reflect on that.
Can I expound on what? What does that mean? If somebody's unmotivated laziness, what is the drawback for you? What does that do for it? What is that not doing for you? I kind of want to dive into that.
I'm not sure if I understand the question very well. Like,
Well, like you're saying he's lazy or unmotivated. How does that affect you?
it shouldn't affect me, right? But I feel like if you're around that energy and say you want to be more, not necessarily physically active, but you want to enjoy life more, but he just wants to stay at home and do nothing.
Okay. Okay.
That
I hear what you're saying, because I thought you meant like lazy as far as not working. So one of the tenets is he's not providing for you, like he's not out there generating any kind of revenue or any type of security for you. So you're yeah. Because I was going, if that was the case, I was gonna be like, well, what if he was a trust fund baby and he was a Johnson & Johnson Walmart heir and he doesn't have to work. He got a $500 million just because he got the same name as them. And he doesn't have to get out there work, so he can still provide you with this great, lavish lifestyle with experience. Not just like, not to say that you're about the lavish stuff, but he just can provide you with a comfortable lifestyle with experiences and trip. But he's just 80% of the time you're gonna see him sipping on the couch if he's not planning a trip for you somewhere.
Yeah, that's still a turn off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the question I want to ask the ladies: do you guys believe in divorce? Like, do you guys believe that do you guys believe in divorce?
I wouldn't want to get divorced if I got married, but that's under the assumption that we did all the vetting and we did the hard conversations up front. So the whole, for example, like the Alexis, like as far as like wanting to get a divorce because he's unmotivated, like I'm sure the signs would be there up front. And so I know I wouldn't want to be with that gentleman who's not ambitious. So that's hard for me to say, why would I get divorced when I know the reasons why I'd get married. But I understand there might. So I think I thought of potential reasons, and this is terrible, but it popped in my mind. Mental illness. Like,
not terrible at all.
Yeah,
like if they all of a sudden, turned, like diagnosed with some sort of mental illness, I might have to cut out.
That's the extreme. That's an extreme.
Yeah, but mental illness can facilitate a lot of those other things: abuse, drug, physical abuse, drug abuse, cheating, all kinds of other stuff. It can facilitate a lot of stuff if it's unaddressed. Like there's a lot of things that a lot of people who do those things have that just have not been diagnosed.
Or maybe, Carmen, you just made him mentally ill.
You drove him crazy.
I drove him nuts. Oh my God.
Latinas, man. They drive crazy.
Oh Lord. In love, man. Crazy in love. That's how it's gonna happen.
Yeah. But same thing, Alexa, do you believe in divorce?
No, you took vows,
Yeah.
You chose to be in a marriage, and a marriage is about commitment and riding it through the good days and the bad days, and really putting in effort to maintaining and cherishing and watering that unit. Because when you're with someone, it's like a baby. Your relationship is like a baby, and you wouldn't just not nourish your baby or nurture your baby. Like, you have to take care of it.
Yeah, I think that's I believe that marriage and choosing your partner that you're gonna have children with is probably one of the most important decisions you're ever going to make in life, And the way I see it is, for me, I don't believe in divorce, outside of the extremes. But I think it's a necessary conversation to have, to ask that belief system. I think you should find people that are aligned with the same values and belief system. And I think for me, if I would choose a wife, I would ask them, like, do you believe in divorce? And if they have the very modern mentality, but I don't feel like it, if I'm not happy, especially the happiness part, like, if I don't feel happy, that was like, I'm definitely not going to get married to you. But I think when the people who have a belief system of it's okay to divorce for whatever reason, especially with the no fault divorce that we have today in America, that you can just get divorced for no reason at all. I think for me it's like a built-in excuse system to exit when you don't want to be in it no more, instead of trying to figure out and solve the problem. Because the way I see it is, if we both agree, I don't believe in divorce, you don't believe in divorce, this is going to be one time and one time only, And of course, we had the hard conversations to make sure that we talk about all the things that we talked about before and make sure that we vet them out. They have the same qualities. I think if we have the same understanding that we're never going to get divorced outside of the extremes, okay, outside, if you commit a crime, if you abuse me physically, if you cheat, then of course that's the only reasons why. But outside of that, then everything, we can solve everything. Whatever we're going through, we'll figure it out. But I think with the mentality to the way I see a lot of the views of how people see divorce is something that's necessary. I've tried this relationship out. I'll try this marriage out. And if it doesn't work, I can always get divorced later. And I think that's a red flag for me. If people have that mentality about divorce, because I think it's a 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Because if I know for a fact as a man that this is going to be my only relationship and my only marriage I'm going to have for the rest of my life, I'm going to make sure it's my best one, because it's going to be forever. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to actually put in the work and invest into it to make sure it's not something that I don't want to have a bad marriage and deal with that for the rest of my life. So I think it's a question I would ask. I would ask them, like, well, like, what's your belief system when it comes to divorce? Like, what are the reasons why you would get divorced? And just see what kind of the reasoning is. And then usually if it's based on like, if it's based on my happiness and things that I see, that then I think that's a sign for me. And I don't want that person, because I would want to go with somebody that, hey, we made a decision, we made a commitment, we made a vow that we're going to make this through. So especially when you have to go through your hard times and arguments and tough times, there's no built-in excuse system to leave when things get hard. But I think with the way people see divorce nowadays, as soon as they face any kind of crisis or any kind of adversity in their relationship, people just go to divorce. That's like the default system. Oh, it's getting too hard, I'll just get divorced and find somebody else. And I think that's a valid question for guys. Like, you should ask them, like, what's their views when it comes to divorce.
Well, I got a quick question though.
Yeah.
Is sexless marriage? We cover that. Is that an extreme? Would you consider that an extreme?
I wouldn't consider that extreme, because if I know I'm gonna be with this person forever, I'm definitely gonna have that conversation about sex.
Yeah,
like
but I would definitely divorce in those circumstances. That and
whoa.
Any form of disrespect.
Let's see how much of a jerk you really are.
Oh, let's go.
How soon? What kind of work would you put in to try to work through that? Like, how much work would you put in? Would you go see doctors and go through counseling and do all that kind of stuff? Or would you be like, look, Tuesday, you need to be giving up something or I'm out this bitch?
I would definitely go like the medical route at first. You know, because like you said, if they have a medical condition, now I'm gonna write that out. I think you gotta suck that up. But if it's just some plain thing where they're just like, I'm not gonna do it because whatever, I'm mad at you, or they're withholding to play that game.
Yeah,
you got a good week.
But
Jokes, the better question is, we don't have that issue though.
What was that?
We don't have that issue, so that's
no, we don't. But I was just thinking, I'm like, just playing devil's advocate. Like, yeah, that would definitely suck. But yeah, I'm with you, Paulo.
Like, it's Monday.
Don't play for the losing team, Joe.
Jerk, people don't just wake up and decide I don't want to have sex with you. That shit is
there's something going on. Like I said, there's a separate connection.
You see it.
I just wanted to throw that scenario out there, but yeah, that is a condition for divorce if that did happen in that weird circumstance.
I believe that I believe divorce is an avenue that should be open to people. I feel like if you staying together is doing more damage to just more than you two, you may want to separate. Because I think there's a lot of relationships that are so dysfunctional that they're trying to breed in that dysfunction down to they're bringing that into they're stealing that in their kids, and they're going to view relationships like that. And it could be if you drag that out with no effort to like really fix it or address it, then I think maybe separating the best thing so kids can have a fighting chance to see healthy relationships. Maybe you get into with another woman, or you get with another man, and you have a healthy relationship, and they can see something that it actually can work. So I think it's not for me. Yeah. Like I said, anymore, because like I said, I was divorced once, but that was different.
Yeah.
I was divorced. I was really young. It only lasted a year, and I got married for all the wrong reasons that I should. I did. There was. Don't get me wrong. She's a good person, but we just got married for all the wrong reasons. Both of us. We joked at it years later. We like, I think we're at like a bar or something like that, and we were just laughing about why the fuck did we even get married? Like it was like we tried to turn a one night stand into a relationship. You know, and that's what it happened to a
It was
marriage.
that
and
good, huh, Damien?
I mean, no, the idea of it was great. I mean, she's like she had a great son, and I was thinking, oh, I want to have a kid. And the military was like, if you get married, you get more money, and it was just all these things that were just kind of like, you should get married. I was like, well, okay, why not? Shit, I kind of like you. I love your son. Why don't we get married?
And then one other condition,
And I kind of like you.
I
love your son. Jesus Christ.
I would say one other condition, because I know some good dudes that like have a vision mapped out, were married and stuff, so they end up getting divorced because like I'll say their significant other was trying to derail that vision, so they try to have those talks and stuff. So I think like as a man, if you have that, like I'll say vision and legacy and stuff like that, and you're moving towards that, but the person is trying to derail that, I would say like you divorce is warranted in them cases.
But I think Damon said something earlier too. It's not about communication; it's effective, right? Effective communication.
Yeah.
I think some guys they have those talks, but it's not effective. I think
sometimes some people are not receptive either, though. So we do got to like allow the conversation because I know some pretty effective communicators, and them people they wanted what they wanted, so they did change in them circumstances. But I don't think it's the majority, but there are them cases where
the effective communication has to be two-way. One person
can
effectively communicate, and somebody can be shit communicator, and it works. That's a two-way street. If one person is like, hey, I can accurately like illustrate or talk about your perspective, and you don't give a shit about mine, then it's gonna go nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, and I've seen that happen before in relationships where somebody was itching to have good communication and what have you. Another person was just like, whatever.
But I agree with you, Will. I think you fight for it. Like that, the divorce should be the latter part of like you trying to work it out and you having them talk. So I agree with you. I think people do like, oh, that didn't work out. Like, let's just get a divorce. So they do play the games with it. So I agree with that.
All right, no worries.
I'm going to echo something that Damon said on an earlier podcast. Good women aren't synonymous with good wives. I'm going to say the same thing for men. Good men aren't synonymous with good husbands or good fathers, right? There is a slight difference in application. So this whole idea of divorce, I don't believe it, because there are a multitude of value systems that I believe in that makes me think of divorce as it shouldn't even exist in my realm of reality. And the reason for that is children. I believe in having family. And one of the things that I believe about children is that we should be, as their parents, be the best model that they draw inspiration and reference from in terms of how relationships are built in their own lives. We should model those. We should be that first direct line of what does a healthy relationship look like? They should look at their parents and go, that's what it looks like. Unfortunately, that's not the reality, right? And I can acknowledge that. And I can acknowledge that divorce is a reality for most people or some people. But for me, and the way that I look at it, it's not a reality for me and my wife. We have children. And we should be the best example that they draw references from when they grow up and be adults. I should show my sons how to be a good man and how to be a good husband, a good father. And my daughter should look at me and draw a reference of what a good man is.
Yeah.
Vice versa. My son should look at his mother and go, that's what great women do. They just do. They exist and they make everything better. The notion of kiss the boo-boo and all of a sudden everything seems to feel fine. It's what great women looks like in their eyes. And for my daughter, she should look at that and be inspired to be, I want to be just like mommy. I want to be able to cook like her. I want to be able to speak to my children like her. So that's why I don't believe in divorces. If I'm going to make this, it better be a one-shot kill. This is it. and I'm indebted to that decision, and I should honor that decision for the entirety of my life. And I should also have the foresight, or cultivate the ability to have foresight to recognize early signs of things that will break up relationship. That's on me. As part of a man and as part of this quote unquote leadership, we should develop those skills to have the foresight. If my wife starts doing something that's going to be detriment at the long run, I should address it. Maybe we shouldn't talk to each other like that. Or pull back when you talk to the kids like that. Oftentimes, it's the small things that draws increasingly in momentum that breaks relationship. People don't recognize it for that. So, divorce is great for anyone who believes in it, but me and my household, we don't. This is it. This is life. Let's do it right.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
I like my wife and I. It's just not gonna happen. It's just like it's just not gonna happen. We one of us got to die for us to be single again. I mean, seriously, that's the way it is, you know. And the funny thing is, it's like you just probably Paul Professor said a lot. It was just like it was real profound, and it was one of those things where it's just like you have to know you well enough to know that the things that you're willing to do to make sure divorce isn't an option. Like I said, there's a lot of good men out there who make horrible husbands, but seriously. So that's the thing. It's just like you have to know, okay, I know myself well enough to know this is what I'm going to commit to for the rest of my life. And those expectations need to be real. What fucks up marriage a lot is people go in and think, oh, he's got to be the person got to be the best of everything. Your wife needs to be the best sex, best cook, best nurturer, best this. She needs to be the best of everything. And your man needs the best dick you ever had, the best fighter, the best to make you the most money. Needs to be all these best person. You need to be the best of everything. And you know how much pressure that is? You need to be more realistic with the person that you're dealing with and look at them as a person and not this idealized of what him being the best of everything for you. Because you may not be the best of everything for him, but you're enough to where he sees all this value in it and that it's something of value that he can maintain and wants to be with for the rest of his life. Because Carmen, if you talk to Eliza, say if you mentioned me, say, was Damien a good man when you knew him, a good guy? She'd be like, yeah. Ask her, do you think he would have been a good husband when you knew him? She'd be like, hell no. He wouldn't have made it when we were hanging out back in the day. Because I was a different person. I had to change myself and become the kind of person who could become a good husband and really get to know myself. And I think a lot of people don't do that part of it.
I saw a podcast the other day. I was these two couple, they don't believe in divorce, and they're having the conversation we're having now. But in their relationship, they don't even say the word divorce. It's non-existent. They don't even say it at all. They don't want to manifest it at all. Like that divorce, even in a joking manner, you can't even joke about it. So they said that if like the things that we say can kind of manifest, sometimes people joke around, I'll divorce you, and then later on they get divorced. But they take it to the extreme. Like, we don't believe in divorce. We don't even say the word divorce. We don't really say that a word of, even if it's joking, because that's how serious we believe it. Like, we don't want this outcome to happen. But I think it's a good question to ask, especially today when divorce is so normalized today. And I've seen content online where women say, you know what, I think it's just gonna take me 2-3 marriages before I find the right one. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, they true.
Why don't just do it one time? And all right. But if you do it one time, it requires work, and I think most people aren't doing the work and everything that we were discussing on this podcast. But go ahead, Dirk. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I have the same sentiments as Paulo and Dame, and I think if you establish it off the right, I'll say characteristics and foundation, and typically, like I said, I'm not saying it's gonna be easy because you're dealing with two people. So there's some issues, but like I said earlier, if you route it back to the core things, that the good stuff first is like what Dane was saying, focusing on the bad that somebody does, because ain't nobody perfect. Like, get that out your head. You're going to be straight. And then you're going to be able to look past like the minor things. Yeah. So yeah, I just think people take that time and vet somebody out. You know, I like what Alexa was even saying when she was kind of breaking it down. Like, hey, people did give me some indicators. You know, listen to yourself, listen to that gut feeling sometimes. So I think if you start doing that and actually, you know, vetting that person out, man, you're going to be in a pretty good territory.
Okay. All right. And right before we conclude, I just want to, I know, Carmen, you brought up a question, but Alexa, any final question you want to throw it out there? We can discuss this last couple of minutes before we conclude. Anything
A
at all?
final question?
Oh, yeah. Any question at all? Or do you want to just throw it out there?
No, I don't have a question right now. But
Yo,
Carmen,
I have a question. I got another question though. Hold on
right.
one second.
Throw it at us, Carmen. Let's go.
This has to do with, you know, like the pillars of men and talk about roles. And what do you think of men who choose to stay at home and having their woman or their wife be the breadwinners? For example, like if she's the medical director to a hospital, she just needs to be there. Obviously, she's making a lot of money.
You talk about like a
Is
stay-at-home
he?
dad.
Yeah, stay-at-home dad, and you know he's taking
Stay-at-home
the
wife.
role of what then, you know. But
Shout out to
I'm
my
just
boss
saying,
bitches, wife and niggas.
but these are. I'm sure he's still providing the qualities that you guys say. He's still protecting and providing in a different manner, right? Not financially, but he's still there physically, and he's feeding his children. He's being accountable to his role as a parent. You know, he's being disciplined, right? Because they have to be in a routine. Like, do you think he's less of a man,
Yes.
of a masculine man, if
Yes.
he?
I'll tell
Yeah,
you why. From a
yes,
scientific point
please
of view,
do. Yeah,
I'll tell you why. Men
yeah.
who do those chores, if they don't do things that are called manly, his testosterone starts deteriorating at a quicker rate than most men who develop it, decline it naturally. So, in the decline of this testosterone, estrogen starts getting introduced at a higher rate to that man's body. This is why you'll often find men who do those roles and are successful in perception are often very feminine by nature or have feminine like nature. You cannot be a masculine man if you don't have the foundation, the human foundation of masculinity, which is testosterone. I make facetious joke about having chest hair about it, but that's the fundamental of it. Right. So these things, it's very important to recognize that our body gives us all the right things in order for us to optimize for the things that we need to do.
Is this a
So,
study that you've read, like a scientific study, like stay-at-home
yeah,
men have?
I think David Buss is one of the people who've gone into it. There's another guy, John Mars, I think it is, who's done a look into it. I'll reference it and send it to Will so you can have a look at it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those dynamics usually work when both people have what it's called a calibration activity. So if you're going to be a stay-at-home dad and do all the feminine roles, you still need to develop things that make you manly, because it resets and recalibrates the way your body promotes testosterone. So whether that looks like going out with your buddies and chopping down trees, going to the gym, whatever it is, it's the same thing with women who are in corporate environment. It's getting back to basics and making you feel like, this is why I don't have a gripe with quote unquote strong and independent women who are decent and they're just wanting relationship. You have to find things that make you feel like a woman. And being in an environment where you have to be combative, where you have to be competitive, is not conducive to you being a woman. And you feel it. When you come home, it's often very difficult to take that sort of hat off.
Hmm.
So there's a balance in there.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, David.
Now, I was just curious, asking that question. Let's put you in that scenario. Would you still look at him as the head of household, possibly the leader of the family, if that was the dynamic? If could he still have the same rights and position and privileges of the head of the household in that dynamic, or would it be most often would it be like a 50-50 shared leadership type situation? Could he still consider himself head of the household, leader of the family in that? Should he be able to consider himself that?
There's a part of me that wants to say yes, you know, because he's taking care of my kids, you know, and he's in charge of roles that I wouldn't be a part of. Obviously, because there'd be two different roles. But I don't have the experience to be like to give you a definite answer. And I could just tell you right now, like as I explained early on Saturday, I wouldn't mind. I think I like the idea of being home. Because I want to be there for my child, and I actually had the experience that was with my son to be there for the first few years, you know, and it was great. I'd totally do it again, but I don't know how I would feel about like my husband taking that role from me,
Yeah.
just because I've already had this experience before.
A lot of
I don't like
women would have a tough time if she was the medical director making $250,000 a year, and they came home to her husband, and then he tried to dictate where that money was going. A lot of women would have a very hard time with that. If it was like, hey, we're gonna take this and we're gonna invest in this, or we're gonna do this, or we're gonna do that, it'd be so. I think that'd be such a fight for a woman to just be like, whoa, now you're about to, we need to have a discussion and we need to agree. And it needs to be that he wouldn't, realistically, he probably wouldn't be considered. It'd be more of like a 50-50 dynamic.
What if he had his degree in finance and he was really good with money?
Well, that's a one-off. That's a special thing. I'm talking about if he didn't, that's a one-off thing. Okay. I'm just saying, but a degree in finance, he probably wouldn't want to stay home if he did all that. Got his degree in finance, he probably wouldn't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna stay at home now. That's probably not, because he would probably want to utilize that, because it, just like Palafessa said, it was in his nature to use that to get himself in the best possible position to provide and protect for his family. But like I said, he could marry Oprah or somebody with that money, and she'd be like, okay, we just need you to stay with him and the kids and stuff like that. But in situations like that, where I'm willing to, I'm not experienced, but I'm going to bet that'd be hard for her to turn off that boss mentality if he tried to be like, okay, we're going to utilize the money in this way. This is the way we're going to do it. If we're going to do the things a traditional nuclear family and a male would be able to do, as far as finances and direction and building a plan for the family, I think it'd be a lot more difficult for the woman to just fall back and let him have that role.
Okay.
Yeah. And another caveat off of what you were saying, to go that, just think about this, and this is something else a lot of women don't think of and men don't think of either. In that role, say you got a couple where they're fine with it, it's working or whatever, and then the children see that, and the guy, and do you think it could like imprint on the children? Like, okay, that's a fine dynamic. And if he was like, yeah, I wanted that, my dad stayed home, I wanted to stay home with the kids, I'm married a woman. Do you think that other women outside of their own family dynamic would view that as a masculine man they want to follow? If a man said to you, hey, I grew up in a household where my dad stayed home and baked cookies and stuff like that, and my mom went out, I want to do that same situation. I want to, not saying that it's going to happen, but I'm saying if it did happen, would you think that most women would view that dude in a negative light?
I can't speak for most, but I really hate generalizing. Generalizing is not something that.
Well, you, all right, then you would you view that in a negative light?
For a stay-at-home man to be at home.
If he said, I ideally that's what I want to be.
And if I was making $250,000 a year?
Yep. If you got to think about it, the answer is we already know the answer. If you got to think about it.
I don't know.
Yeah, time you walk in the house and you see him in an apron baking brownies, you out of there. You're like, man, this little punk.
What about you?
I don't know. Like I've had like a gentleman that I really cared about, and I was working, I had a full-time job, I had a part-time job, and I was going to school full-time, and it's nice to come home to someone who had made dinner for me.
Yeah, for like a week or so.
There's a time limit on that stuff.
Yeah.
But
there's a time limit on that. It's a novelty of it that you're going to enjoy for a while. It's like threesomes. You're going to enjoy it for a while, but then all of a sudden the novelty rolls off, and it's just like, okay, what the fuck is really happening?
Man shouldn't be doing that.
Slow down with that. No, we got pushed
what
back
about you,
on
Alexis? I want you to answer the question.
It's a flashback.
Did you still look at a guy as a masculine guy? See, there you go.
She said, "I
Carmen
got
trying to be all
fast,
icy
boy."
with it.
No, but
She had that
so-
mute button off.
So
She was like,
masculine man
"Shit."
wouldn't like take care of his woman that way to be like have dinner ready if she was
No,
out.
I'm not saying that. No. Like
That's just
if I
additional. That's just
Question.
additional.
if I go out there tomorrow and my wife and I go and make dinner, my wife would cream all over the place, But if that was my job,
Yeah.
and she was out working, slaying the dragons, and she came home to a hot meal, yeah, it would be more dry as a desert. I can guarantee.
Yeah, I think
She'd be coming in the house like, "Where's my plate, stupid?" It's more or less like a like an obligation at that point.
Yeah,
I
think when women say that they want a man that can cook, you want a man that can cook, but it's additional to his masculinity, not the expense, not the sacrifice of his masculinity. So you don't want to lose his masculinity so he can cook for you. You want him to be because there are men that can cook. I mean, I can cook, but you still want the man to be masculine, and if he has those additional traits, that still works. But you don't want him to learn how to cook in the expense of him losing his masculinity. That's the issue. So the guy that's staying at home with the apron and asking you, "Hey, do you want some cookies?" He's sacrificing his masculinity to be in that role. So,
Okay.
yeah. But why are you laughing, Jerry?
No, that was a funny question. It definitely threw us for a loop on that one.
I wrote it down.
Well, you said this. I'm curious about the ladies. You said this. Carmen and Alexis, is cheating a death row offense in a marriage to you guys? End of the marriage.
Automatic divorce.
I have a hard time. Again, this is probably why I'm not married. I have a hard time with forgiving. And I can say I realize that I have a hard time with forgiving when someone consciously passes my no-go zone. As an adult, you made the conscious decision to go against this particular thing that I know I've communicated. So just like how you would expect, or you expect yourself to stand in the decisions that you made, then I have to stand on my boundaries too, on my values and my morals and my integrity. So I would have to make an exit on such behavior. Like, because in my mind, it's like if I let it happen, or if it happened and we talk about it and I stay, is it signaling that it's okay to continue doing it because he knows that I'm not going to go anywhere?
That's fair.
What about you, Alexis?
If I am providing everything you need mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and you cheat, then yeah, like I'm out.
Adios.
But if I take accountability and I'm like, well, I wasn't really giving him the affection that he needed, and he felt like he needed to seek it somewhere else, and it happened once, then maybe I can forgive it because I took accountability and I know I'm not doing everything I need to do.
Right. But then he's not communicating his needs and he's not getting whatever, so there has to be a point of like communication. Like
most men would have probably communicated by trying to have sex with you. And so he'd probably be trying to get some from you. He's overtly communicating his desire for sex. And if you're saying, no, I'm not going to give it to you, and then he goes out and finds it someplace else, he communicated.
Oh, honey, that'll never happen.
Excellent point.
2 o'clock in the morning, turn me around.
I disagree with Damon. The guy in the apron is not communicating.
Yeah, nah, he's not.
Yeah, and the thing, and this is more for the guys that are listening. I'm just want to tell you something about infidelity, and I'm the old guy, so I like to tell stories. It's just one of those things where you will you give me the brevity to tell a quick 30-second story, Will? Go ahead, Damon. Okay. This is what my dad told me, but I've modernized it for modern consumption. Say you get a job that's going to pay you $10,000 a month, your dream job. You're like, oh my God, this is a great job. I'm loving this job. And you guys sign the contract. You agree to what you need to do in order to get your money every month. You said great. First 6 months, you're doing everything that you're supposed to do. Without fail, once a month you get your $10,000 check in your email or in your bank account. Then you start realizing the job is a little easy and a little boring, so you start half-assing it. You're like, you don't come every day. You may come late, but you're still doing it. You're still getting your 10 grand. Month 8, you're barely showing up, half-assing it. Calling in sick or whatever like that. You still get your $10,000. Then you realize, I can, instead of me doing this, I can get a second job too, and I'll get his money and that money. And for a minute there, it's all working out. You're balling, you're getting both checks or whatever like that. And then come month 12, you get your check, it's $6,000. And you go to your boss and like, what the fuck? It's $6,000. And you're like, okay, well, remember when we signed up for this job, you agreed to certain ways of behaving and meeting a certain standard. You're not behaving to that standard. So I value your work as only worth $6,000. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. He's like, and they were like, I know about the other job and everything like that. He's like, I'll quit the other job. I'll get back to where I was. He's like, you know what? I've lost faith in you. I've lost trust in you. So maybe if you work real hard and do everything that you don't want to do or everything I need you to do for the next 10 years, I'll get you back to $8,000. You'll never get the $10,000 because I'll never trust you fully enough to give you that $10,000. But you'll get the $8,000, and maybe in another 10 years after that, you'll get $8,500 or $9,000. All I'm saying is, like, if you cheat on your spouse and they stay, why would you want 85%, 60, 70, and you got to work so hard to get barely what you were getting? Right now, my wife said, we had to discuss, my wife is giving me 100% of herself. If I were to cheat and she stayed, I get 60%. And you know what? You don't, or maybe if I work for another 10 years, I'll get 80%, but I'll start to miss that 20%. It'll become real evident, like, she didn't buy me the cookies I like, or she doesn't like cook for me, or if she does, it's bear in mind, she never asked me what I want for dinner. She just makes food. All the things that made her my wife starts to erode. And it just becomes this most excellent roommate situation. And she's no longer your wife. I want my wife. I don't want a roommate who lets me hit it once in a while. And that's what I think cats need to realize they lose when they're unfaithful. They lose the 100% of their wife that they could have for the rest of their life. If all they have to do is keep their dick in their pants.
Yeah. Especially
so that's my long story.
I love it. That part.
Yeah. I mean,
that is a great story.
Especially if she's a good wife and a good woman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You jeopardize a good thing that you had going on. So, but yeah, Damon, always thank you for sharing a great story. But fellas, ladies, we've come to the end of the pod. Appreciate you guys for jumping on. Thank you for that great conversation. We had a great conversation tonight. And shout out to everybody in the live chat. A lot of you guys watched the entire stream on YouTube and on Instagram. Serna, I see some new names on here, so thank you so much. Terrence, always good to see you. Dilke Moonga, always good to see you in the live chat. First Cause, Dark Lake, 4240, and a lot of you guys. I always think about that, David. That the first time you told me that story, one thing I know for a fact I would appreciate it. When I'm working hard towards my family, then I can see the appreciation and the respect and the trust that that woman reciprocates. But I know for a fact that if you do cheat on her as a man, you can see that the loss of trust in you, and I think that would affect me. So I wouldn't want to break that. It feels good when a woman really trusts you and she appreciates you, especially with the work that you put in. But can I ask everybody on the panel final thoughts from tonight's conversation, and how can people find you guys? I'll start with the ladies. Carmen, Alexa, always good to see you guys. Thank you for making the time. I always appreciate you guys and your input. Alexa, final thoughts, and how can people find you, Alexa?
Final thoughts. I just love hearing everyone's perspective. I'm here to learn and share my experience. So, fellas, thank you for everything you shared. And you can find me at Alexa Navarrete on Instagram.
All right. Thank you so much, Alexa. I'll pass it to you, Carmen. Carmen, always good to see you in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, and how can people find you, Carmen?
Well, I want to thank you guys I want to thank you for the invite, actually. Especially I had questions after the fact thank you for letting me ask to this gentleman panel. You can find me at Samba Passion, SAMBAPASSION on Instagram.
All right. Thank you, Carmen. Pass it to the fellas. I'll start with you, Joe. Joe, final thoughts. How can people find you, Joe?
If you can't find me, you won't. Just reach out to Will. No, I think everybody hit it on the dot. I know I was generally pretty quiet, but I think it all boils down to what Paul Fessel was saying earlier in the podcast. Just remember, you guys are both adults. There's no reason to shy away from the conversation. If you have something to say it. And if there's any pushback on that, try to figure out how you guys are going to navigate it. And yeah. But other than that, as always, thank you, Will, for having me on the panel tonight.
All right. Thank you so much, Joe. Pass it to you, Jerk. Jerk, final thoughts. How can people find you, Jerk?
The late, great Dame once said, if you cheat, you better leave. No, I'm joking. No, great conversation. I love chopping it up with everybody. Women, if y'all have questions, please reach out to us. This is a good bunch of guys that can give different perspectives and, help y'all come to some solutions and stuff. So, I like Alexa and Carmen pulling up. I appreciate that. Those were some dope questions. So thanks again, Will, for having us here. And check me out on Manic Sophistication. And I'm here quite a bit now. So these are going to be my two homes.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Jerk. Dame, final thoughts. How can people find you?
Yeah, it's always a good time. I always hope, I don't come off as like the thorough ass old head all the time. But, I just really a big proponent of people getting together, having strong relationships. And I think we always say, I think we're just so much better together than we are apart if you can find the right person. If anybody want to find me, you can just reach me at IG at Can I Get Some Podcast. Just like I would spell. And you guys will see me on Thursday too. I love being here.
All right. Always good to have you, Dame. And last but not least, Paulo, final thoughts. No one can find Paulo.
Yeah, don't find me. I'm too damn busy and I work in real life. I'd like to grow my chest here, so I do that shit. Look, it's always a great conversation when we can sit down and discuss things that people struggle to articulate. And I think with the Masculine Mind world, you've done a great job in terms of attracting people who understand the deeper level of conversations that need to be had. I think it's often too one-sided in the ways that we pull conversation where, oh no, it's your fault, you need to be better. Oh no, it's your fault, you need to be better. Rather than that, we look and say, the problem is the problem. And people are not recognizing that oftentimes they contribute to those problems. So, Jerk, Damien, Joe, I don't want to see your nipples again, Joe. Please put it on.
Hey, I've been trying to cover them, okay? I spilled my drink.
Who loves shirts?
It's always a pleasure.
I've had a problem lately. I've grown out of all of my fucking shirts, and I haven't had time.
Yeah, okay. As soon as the women jump on, you need to put on the shirt with the titties out. I got you.
Yeah, I saw him pour like liquor on his shirt. He's like, oops, let me go kiss my shirt.
Is that
Make
my
it a
titty?
non-problem.
Hey, don't be mad because you stopped going to the gym, okay?
God damn it, Joe.
Anyways, Carmen and Alexa, welcome to the Masculine Mind, and I hope that you enjoy your time here because this is essentially how men break down who we are and how we show up in the world.
Yeah.
And if you find any value in tonight's conversation, I hope you come back because there will be many more to come. And again, well, always a pleasure and an honor to be part of your platform in these conversations. And thank you for having me.
No worries. Thank you so much, Paulo Fessa.
Carmen's got to come back and bring that list.
Yeah, I have it written down in my journal.
As always, thank you so much. And I just want to say this to Carmen and Alexa. We always talk about this on the Masculine Mind, accountability, resiliency, but discipline. But the last thing, this is non-negotiable. Your man must have chest hair. Okay, make sure he has chest hair. Okay, no chest hair, no go. All
right. What if he shaves it off?
Oh no.
That's
This is the stay-at-home dad, right?
That's a red flag.
Get a refund.
Like if
You
he's
know,
not
it's
having
like-
open heart surgery, there's no reason to shave it off.
As a man,
Thank you,
be a
David.
man.
All right.
Make sure you have that chest hair, man. Make sure you have that chest hair. But as
Yeah, what is he, an Olympic swimmer? Like,
ladies, as always, fellas, always appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much. We had a great show tonight. And everybody that's watching Chai stream, thank you so much. Definitely follow everybody on the panel on their platforms and support them as well. But we do this every single Thursday, so that way you guys get notified. We go live next time on next Thursday. But we'll see you guys next time. Everybody have a good night. Peace, y'all. Peace, y'all.
Thanks, guys.